Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Well, the Utah Mammoth wrap-up game number 82. They lose to the Blues 5-3. Didn't really matter. They knew they were locked into a series. They're headed to Las Vegas to play the Vegas Golden Knights Sunday in the playoff opener. We're going to talk with Danny Webster, who writes for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, covers the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll talk with him coming up at 9:30. So, at the other end of the show, if you want more on the playoffs, make sure you're here to talk Stanley Cup playoffs with us. Right now, we start out with the best of the post-game show as the Mammoth fall to the Blues in the season finale.
DJ and PK, the Utah Mammoth finished their regular season with a 43-33-6 record. They'll open the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sunday against the Vegas Golden Knights. They wrapped up their regular season at the Delta Center on Thursday night. 82nd game of the year. Didn't mean anything in terms of consequentiality with the standings. It was a 3-3 game until the final couple of minutes, and St. Louis scored, and then they scored into an empty net, and that would be that. The Blues jumped up early 1-0. Michael Carcone, though, would come back with his 16th of the year to get the Mammoth on the board.
Here's Carcone, shoots and scores! Michael Carcone fires one past Hofer, and we're tied at 1 out of nowhere.
1-1 going to the second, and the first minute of the second period, Lawson Krause would tie a career high with his 24th and give Utah their first lead.
Shoots off the blocker, rebound, and they score! Krause. Mammoth with the lead. Krause with 24 goals on the year.
Mammoth thought they made it 3-1 41 seconds later, but the goal was disallowed for goaltender interference, and the kind of back and forth Thursday night in downtown Salt Lake City would then shift the way of the St. Louis Blues, who scored 2 goals in less than 3 minutes to make it 3-2, both goals coming from Robert Thomas. Kyler Yamamoto, though, would get the Mammoth a third goal with 1:07 left to go in the second, and that tide is heading to the third.
Front, Weir back onto it. This is Yamamoto who fires and scores! Tie game. Kyler Yamamoto dropped a yammer hammer.
And then 3-3 until those 2 late goals by St. Louis. After the game, the Mammoth handed out their team awards. The All-In Award for the player that gives it all on and off the ice was Lawson Krause. Tied a career high in goals, as I mentioned, one off of a career high, and Utah's associate captain honored with the All-In Award.
You won the All-In Award. The fans voted on that. What does it mean to you that they recognize the effort you have in each game, night in and night out?
Yeah, it's special. I think, just try and do my best each and every night out there. Obviously, a lot of guys on our team do. So, I think if you look around our room, there's a lot of guys that could have been up for, that award, and obviously very grateful to get that recognition.
There's plenty of lessons that this team can learn throughout the regular season, but something you can take into the playoffs is defending against a team that has a great active D-core and a solid rush game. What do you want to take from this game going into that playoff series of what you learned?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that, St. Louis was going to be, lethal off the rush. You just got to try and do your best to get above and, be smart with pucks. But, playoffs are a whole different ballgame. Obviously, good habits, but, we're going to go over all of that in the next couple days here.
Ryan Smith talked about the next level, especially here at home. What excites you most about bringing this experience home?
I think, you feel that energy and that atmosphere out there each and every night. And, I believe, I find it hard to believe, actually, that there is another level, considering how loud they've been. But, they've continued to blow us away. So I'm sure they have something in the bag for us.
Not the result you wanted, but you still feel like you carry some momentum into this playoff series?
Yeah. Obviously, it's tough to lose that game 3-3 in the third. But, we can be proud about our regular season. We set a goal at the start of the year to get to the playoffs, and we made that happen. So now you just, turn the page and get ready for game 1.
Here comes 83. Game 83, that's what your coach has been preaching for the last couple of years. You guys want to get to this level.
Yeah, I think as a professional athlete, this is the time you want to be in. You want to be playing in playoffs. You want to be giving yourself a chance to win a championship. And, What starts here starts now.
Michael Carcone got the Community Obsessed Award. He was all in on the Mammoth in the community, being involved in Autism Acceptance Day, creating a pair of mismatched socks with his friend Wells, and having a bunch of fun folks down to the Delta Center on that day, while also being involved in the team's visit to Primary Children's Hospital, along with helping out with the Boys and Girls Club on the team's Christmas shopping endeavors for children who could use a little bit of a hand along with their families. Dylan Gunther winning the 3 Stars Award, and Captain Clayton Keller, MVP, captaining the team into the playoffs and recognized as the team's leading scorer.
Congratulations, MVP and leading scorer awards. With the MVP, your teammates voted for you to get that award. What does that mean to you that they viewed you as the most valuable player?
Yeah, I think it means a lot for sure. There's lots of other guys in this room that could have received it, and so yeah, it's very special, and it means a lot for sure.
You guys wrapped up the regular season tonight. Now it's time to focus on the playoffs. What's the excitement level from this group that you guys get to continue your season? You met your goal going into this year.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I think we're so excited to be in the playoffs. This is, like you said, wherever we wanted to go, and now the real fun starts. Regular season's over. It doesn't matter at all, really. It's focus on Vegas.
On a personal note, you finished the season with a 10-game point streak. What's going right for you, I guess, right now?
I don't know. I think just making good decisions with the puck, trying to attack more, and just trying to build my game. Every single game, lots of video, breaking it down, just doing everything I can to be better.
What makes this a dangerous team going into the first round?
I think we're a very confident team right now. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, lots of excitement, and great for our group to get into the playoffs and feel that. So I think we're, like I said, super confident and can't wait.
Losing 3 of your last 4 in the regular season, not the way you want to go to the playoffs, but how you turn the page and get ready for the postseason.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's a new season. Doesn't really matter what happened tonight, 2 games ago. So I think that's all we're looking forward to.
The Delta Center is already one of the loudest buildings in the NHL. When you picture a home playoff game, what are you expecting out of the energy and atmosphere here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to blow past our expectations, and I can't wait for it. Everyone's kind of been talking about it. People I've met in the community and things like that saying they can't wait to come to the game. So super excited for sure.
What are your initial thoughts playing Vegas after you guys played 3 times this year?
Yeah, very experienced, good team, lots of skill. They play hard, so it's going to be a great test for us. And like I said, we're super excited and up for the challenge.
Thanks, Kels.
Thank you.
For Utah, they don't win the game, but as we heard from Governor Ryan Smith after the game on the ice and head coach Andre Tourigny right here, for Utah, it was all about an 82-game season that they capped off, accomplishing their goal of getting to the playoffs.
I think I will touch briefly on the game, but talk more about the season and the achievement of the guys and stuff like that. First, Jeffrey just told me there were a few questions about the challenge. It's not just if the puck get in before you, it's if you touch the puck. So they didn't touch the puck by the time they were offside, so they have the time to tag up, so that was not an offside, so that's why we didn't challenge. I will have gladly challenged, but it was not an offside by the rule, so that's what it is. Obviously, the season, the resilience of the guy, the way they fought during the season, through a certain moment of adversity, showed a lot of growth in our ability to have urgency when it was important, and we stayed away from long period of adversity, and we were capable of having a good consistency and string a few winning streak who pushed us over the edge. So happy about the maturity our team had and how much they gel, and how because even if we always been the team who's really tight to each other, you cannot take that for granted. Same thing with your family and my family and all our family. You don't take relationship for granted. So as much as we were tight, we're even tighter now. So proud of the guys for that. And I think they earn everything. They earn the right to play game 83. We talk about it all season long. So we will be in the other season. Proud of the guys for that and excited to get going.
You had quite a bit of success against Vegas in the regular season. How can that translate into the playoffs?
It doesn't. That's why it's fun. It doesn't. It's a new season. It's a new intensity that will be totally different. I think during the season, sometimes you play against team, you're in the, you can be in the slum. They are on a really good streak. It's everything. The numbers you have from those games can be taken out of context. You know, we play certain game extremely well this year, and you look at our number, those games, they dominate that team. Oh yeah, but that might have been our best game of the year. So it doesn't mean that will be exactly the same on game one of the playoffs. So I think, for me, what happened during the season is really not that relevant at this point.
Tonight was your last opportunity to face another team before going into the playoffs. You will have an opportunity to practice, but this team, St. Louis, they're good off the rush. They have a very active D-core, two qualities that Vegas also has. How did getting those reps tonight prepare you guys for game one?
I understand your question, but not much. I think there's the level of intensity, the level of focus, the level of urgency, the level of commitment. It's not the same. You know, it's just not the same. I think that our opponent will be different, will be more intense, more this, more that, will have more pressure. There will be a ton of differences. You know, when you're in St. Louis situation, we've been there. You're not nervous of making a mistake. We're not one turnover close, and it doesn't change anything. Well, it will be different when we start. That will be, the stake will be different, the pressure will be different, the emotion will be different. So there will be a lot, but structure-wise, there was some stuff to take to your point.
And Mike Fulton and I will have everything playoff-related covered for you on Mammoth Daily, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus, and SCG Plus. Our playoff preview is out now for the Mammoth in Vegas, the Stanley Cup playoffs complete bracket, and we'll tell you how you can get involved in Nate Schmidt Lookalike Day coming up on Saturday at the Delta Center. With you on Mammoth Daily every day, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back on Sunday as the Mammoth open the playoffs against the Vegas Golden Knights right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
There's the best of the postgame show. When we come back, we are talking golf with Mike Weir, Masters champ. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined now by former Masters winner Mike Weir, joining us from the Senior PGA Championship, Bradenton, Florida, the Concession Golf Club just south of Tampa. Mike, good morning.
Morning, fellas.
Golf is changing nonstop, and I heard the announcement from the PGA Tour, all this talk about redoing the schedule and taking weeks off majors. The senior major is already a big deal, but you might start getting an open spot in the calendar, Mike. They could become an even bigger deal.
Yeah, no, it is changing the tour. I mean, I've listened into some of the changes from our new commissioner, Brian Rolap, and I like the changes with the no cut policy and having do away with those and having these events that they all have cuts, and there's a little bit bigger fields. There's not these limited field events where, these players, if you're at a certain level, you get in those and you can just gain such an advantage over the rest of the tour if you're in those compared to a guy who's not in those, and it's hard to play catch up. So I think that's going to be a good change.
Mike, I think the most important question I can ask you right now is, how was the Masters Champions Dinner menu? Because the same guy is going to put it on again next year.
Yeah, exactly. It was great this year. I'd be okay if he chooses the same thing. He had the these elk sliders as an appetizer as we sat out on the balcony and had a drink before we went in for dinner, and they were awesome. That's what I served as my main course was elk. So I was, I think it was the first time since I served that 2003 that elk was on the menu anywhere. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, he did a great job. I mean, he said some great things, great words. Gary Player and Jack Nicklaus both got up and said some great things. You know, they're the only, Rory now joined him as the only 3 Grand Slam champions in that room. So it was good to hear from all 3 guys.
Americans tend to eat on the go, and the Masters, when you see all the different courses in that, for my in-laws' 50th anniversary, we went on a cruise to Alaska, and you have these days at sea, and it seems like the dinner and the courses is spread out over like 2 or 3 hours, just kind of keep people entertained while they're on the ship at sea in that. And when you talk about that with the Masters, and I see the photos and hear the reports on that, the courses and all that, I mean, the dinner, is it really an evening? Are you spending 2, 3, 4 hours together?
Yeah, it's a couple hours. I mean, we get there. Most guys kind of roll in right around 6 to 6:30, maybe at the latest, and we, everybody just kind of has a drink and catches up with one another. And I get to have a conversation with Jack Nicklaus and Mark O'Meara and Nick Faldo and some of the international guys I play with in the President's Cup like Hideki and Adam Scott, and we just kind of catch up. That's the one thing about Augusta that's great. You see familiar faces that you might not see all year. At least from my perspective, playing the Champions Tour, I get to see players that play the regular tour that I don't get to see them anymore, and so that's great. For me, the President's Cup, President's Cup players that I played with and that I actually captained in 2024 to catch up with those guys, and so that's a great part of the Masters, and especially the Tuesday night dinner, and then that generation of Nicklaus and Ray Floyd and Tom Watson, guys that I've always admired. You get a chance to chat with them, and that's the most special thing for me on that Tuesday evening.
Yeah, that is just so cool. I can only imagine that would just be a fantasy to be able to just be inside the, what they say, the fly on the wall, because golf, the way it connects the past with the present is really unparalleled in all of sports. And as somebody who's a golf fan, to have you be able to say, yeah, I was talking with Jack and I was talking with Gary Player. I mean, we're talking about one guy who's 90 and another guy's 86 years old, and you're having conversations and you have things in common. It just blows me away knowing that could happen every year. And it's the one place at the Masters, which is, for me, it's almost like a religious experience. If I had ever had been there and be able to experience, just to walk the grounds, which I've not done. Now, as we watched the tournament, there was a lot of talk about the conditions of the course. What did you make of them?
Yeah, the course was very healthy. It was in phenomenal condition, best I've seen it in a long, long time. It did play tough, firm, fast, especially hole locations that were on the elevated part of the greens, kind of up on a knoll, a little hump on top. If the pin was sitting up there, those spots get exposed with a little bit of wind and in the great weather that we had that week. So those areas got even extra firm. It was tough to hold the ball around the green, around the pin in those locations. So that played quite tough when the pins were in some of those locations. But I thought it was a fair test, a tough test. I thought they did a great job with the setup. It ended up being a great championship. It looked like maybe Rory was going to run away with it on Friday, but as things seem to happen around there, it always seems to even itself out and end up being a great championship.
He's halfway to his second career slam. There's only 2 guys who pulled that off. He's sitting on 6 majors with some legendary names right in front of him at 7, 8, and 9, and only 3 guys have ever got to 10. Sometimes we're prisoners of the moment and the expectations get too high. Sometimes we dismiss people and what they're capable of too quickly, especially if they're doing something unusual that hasn't been done very often. Excuse me. What do you think the expectations should be for the rest of his career, knowing he's got at least 5 and maybe 10 years to rack up even more majors?
Yeah, I mean, he's, I think it's easy to look at Rory's game and have high expectations. It's such a pleasing game to watch, I would say. He just plays, unlike maybe a lot of the modern day players who are quite technical and maybe overanalyze everything. Rory plays with a sense of freedom, and I think it's just, as a golf fan, watching him play, I love players that play with that kind of freedom. I wish, envious of, I wish I could play with that much freedom. I tend to overthink things too much. So, but I think, the talent's evident. So the expectations are high. I think, having kind of checked that box of the Grand Slam now, you hope that, inside mentally he is freed up and can just kind of play with house money and keep racking up these majors. I hopefully he doesn't have any injuries. I hopefully he stays healthy. And when you have ball speed like that, can hit it that far, and the rest of your games keeps getting refined as he gets a little bit older. His wedge game was maybe a weakness of his. Now it's not. His pitching, his putting, that's all that part of his game has sharpened up so much in the last couple of years. So. Before he won the Masters in 2025, he was really contending in a lot of tournaments and had some setbacks and some heartbreaks, and now he kind of got over the hump. So I suspect he's going to, take that confidence of getting it done now the last couple of times he's been in contention and, maybe ride that wave here for a few years.
One of the things I find is kind of weird with golf, and obviously you've been in that position, maybe you'll be in that position this weekend in Florida, is you're playing and you're competing against guys, but you don't necessarily know how they're doing because they may be 2 or 3 holes ahead or behind, but you can hear cheers and all that. When you're in the middle of it and the Masters that you won, you needed to go into extra holes. How do you deal with that in terms of, I wonder what player XYZ is doing? I hear a cheer. Or can you just knock that stuff out of your mind and being focused literally on the shot in front of you and not worry about where the leaderboard is because it's something you don't know nor can you control?
Yeah, it's a great point. You definitely feel the surge of energy, and not only in your own game, but if you do hear a roar ahead, it kind of hits you internally, and it's, I think, just human nature to wonder what happened. Was that a eagle or birdie or something ahead? But you just don't want it to take away from what you're doing in the moment. Jack Nicklaus, was famous for just compartmentalizing and saying, I can't control what the other guys are doing. I have to stay in my own little bubble here. And it's easier said than done, but that's what we try to do as players, is really focus on what we're doing. For myself, I know the type of player I am. I'm not an overpowering guy. I can't, all of a sudden think, I'm 2 behind, I'm going to attack this par 5 and try to get to this par 5 and 2. That's not playing my game. My game, I have to hit great wedges, and especially if we're talking about Augusta, you have to hit great wedges and attack par 5s that way. This course this week, it might be a little bit different. A senior PGA, the courses aren't quite as long, so I can do that maybe a little bit more, but PGA Tour courses, I could never do that. I had to just stick to my strategy. You feel those waves of emotion from other groups, from other players, but you just kind of compartmentalize and stick to your game and execute your game plan.
It was interesting. Coming down the stretch as Scotty Scheffler started to get closer and closer, and he made a big putt, and the announcers on the broadcast are like, Rory heard that. What he doesn't know is if that was a birdie or an eagle. That could have been an eagle. It wasn't. It was a birdie. And so does that even impact you when you're standing over a putt thinking, hey, I just got to get down in 2 from here, I'm 25 feet away or whatever, or thinking I really got to go for it, which, brings its own risk. You might leave yourself a really difficult second putt going for it.
Yeah, I'm sure it affected Rory. That was a heck of a birdie Scotty made. He hit it in the trees right and then pitched out, hit a tree, and he was still in the trees. Somehow managed to birdie on 15. That's what Scotty seems to do. But I remember Nicklaus, and I believe it may have been in the 70s sometime, and I think it was Weiskopf and Watson were standing on 15 green, and Jack rolled in this big putt up the hill on, I think it was 1975, a long time ago, but he rolled this 40-footer up the hill in on 16. The crowd's going crazy, and those guys had to wait as the crowd, kind of calmed down before they could hit their putts on 15. And so those things do matter, and they do have an impact on leaders and the mindset. You might think you have it in the bag, and then some guy chips in on you, or makes a long putt, and it can have an effect. It can rattle you. It can kind of maybe even get you more focused on what you have to do, but depends on the moment, I guess, depends on the player on how it affects them.
So now we've had two guys in the last pairing on Sunday saying, man, he didn't say anything to me. You had Young this year and DeChambeau last year, I think it was, and Roy's not a talkative guy. When you go out there, you're going to be yucking it up with Vijay Singh, or is it standard that you just keep to yourself?
This stage of the game in our 50s, we probably talk a little bit more. I would say that, in my day on the tour, I was pretty into my own game and didn't say much, and kind of had to have the blinders on, so to speak, to play my best golf. You got to know what works for you. A Lee Trevino type guy who has to talk, and that keeps his energy loose, where Nicholas might not say much, or Ben Hogan might not say much. I might not say much. You got to just know your personality, I think. But, at this stage of the game for me, I've known VJ a long time. We're good friends. Yeah, we'll be talking. He doesn't know hockey very well, so we can't talk hockey. But maybe he loves his cricket. Maybe he's from Fiji and rugby and cricket.
He won't drop any Mammoth talk
road,
about
how much can you follow the Utah
year?
Mammoth? The NHL is here now. The arena is packed. People are going nuts. They're going to play Vegas in the playoffs. We don't have the schedule yet. You got to finish the regular season, play this last game, and then we'll get the playoff schedule. How much are you tracking that?
Oh yeah, I'm following it closely. I'm excited we're playing Vegas. Weren't sure who we were going to play there, but seems like a natural rivalry there. Down the I-15. Seems like whenever we play them in the regular season, there's a bit of an edge to those games. And get ready, Utah. Playoff hockey is the best. It is so awesome, so intense. It's been part of my life since I was a kid. Watching Detroit Red Wings, which were my team, close to where I grew up, and now we have it in Utah. I'm super excited. I can't wait for it to get started.
Were you a few months ago at the Sandy post office? I understand you were badgered by some lady. Is that true?
That's right. That is true. Your wife came up and introduced herself. That's right. Exactly.
And she said she was starstruck. I said, why didn't you tell him who you were? I said, he probably remembered the old guy he played golf with, and maybe you could have a conversation.
Yeah,
she couldn't get out the words.
That's funny.
Last thing before we let you go, you mentioned, in the 50s, a different attitude. You're 55 now, and how long do guys play senior golf? What is your plan for that, or at least what is your goal for that? Because we tend to see guys that are fresh into the senior tour at 50, 51 have the most success. I haven't really tracked how long guys tend to stay out there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. I mean, obviously you have the benchmark with Bernard Longer still playing great is mid-late 60s. I think he's 68 now and still playing great golf and still wants to play and is competitive and loves to compete. I mean, I still feel that. I still feel like I'm motivated and want to practice and work at my game and love to work at it. If that goes away and I want to be home more, that's what I'll do. But right now I'm still motivated and still healthy. Lately, my last couple of years, my back's been great. So I've been able to practice a little bit more, and so I'm still enjoying myself. It's an enjoyable time out there. So, if I can play into my early 60s, that would be awesome. I hope so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we'll be tracking you out there at the Senior PGA Championship, Bradenton, Florida, the Concession Golf Club, and we'll see how you do, Mike. People are still following you here. Thanks for jumping on the air and talking to some of your fans.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
There's Mike Weir. When we come back, Caleb Kanales, the new basketball coach at Weber State, joins us. Stay with us.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
DJ PK and Caleb Kanales joins us now. He's the new basketball coach at Weber State. Caleb, good morning.
DJ PK, good morning. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for coming on. So we understand college sports is changing big time. It's a little more like the pros, and you got to have some money, and you got to have some glitz and glamour. You have a tie to Damian Lillard. We know Lillard has a title with the organization. This has got to be part of your plan as a new guy coming in going forward. How is this going to work? What is this going to look like? What should we expect?
Well, we want to get the Purple Palace rocking again. You know, that's going to take a team effort from top to bottom. Just so grateful for the opportunity. Excited, attacking these past couple of weeks and building out a roster. But it's never going to change. You know, we want the best student athlete that's going to be fit for our university and a fit for our program going forward.
And so that's going to take some work. I believe you had 9 guys transfer out. And so far, correct me if I'm wrong, because things change every day, if not every hour. I think you've got 3 transfers in. Is that accurate?
I think they're still fluid, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you exactly because it can change here in the next hour or so. But, we've just been aggressively attacking and identifying, and our coaching staff and myself and the whole team has been doing a great job of getting the player and, like I mentioned, the student athlete that we want, to win and to win big here at Weber.
We just had Eric Kerr, the new Weber State football coach, on yesterday, and we were talking with him. You know, if you're not at the very top or the very bottom, there's always a risk you're going to lose guys. And there are always going to be guys out there who maybe have the talent and have the measurables, but maybe they don't play the way you want. Maybe they don't play well in the sandbox with others despite their talent. Maybe they're not good in a team setting and all that. With literally thousands of names in the transfer portal, how do you go about evaluating all the stuff that you just can't see in the stats and maybe see quickly in the film so that you get the right people?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to dive into the film, and that's what we've been doing nonstop. But you bring up a lot of great points. Like one of our mantras here, a saying that I love that I learned a long time ago is champions adjust. We're going to have to be adjust. We're going to have to adjust on the fly. We're going to have to be fluid. We're going to have to be flexible and stay liquid in a lot of situations. But I know what we want it to look like, how we want to be elite on both ends of the floor. There's a formula here. And like you mentioned, I mean, you still have to pick the right player, but more importantly, you have to pick the right human.
Kevin Young down at BYU, when he took over, he was talking big time, and he had come from the NBA ranks as an assistant, and you have experience there, 18 years, I think it was, including 23 or so games as the interim head coach of the Blazers. And so what Kevin did with some of his guys, particularly AJ DeBanza, who grew up in terms of, the favorite player being Kevin Durant. Well, he coached Kevin Durant, so he had Kevin make some contact, and he got Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and those guys are big time, at least 2 Hall of Famers. We'll see what Booker does when it's said and done, and use those as connecting points to get him players. You have the availability. Your Rolodex is very impressive, not just Damian Lillard, but I'm sure there's plenty of other guys. Do you anticipate being able to use that as an advantage in recruiting to get young fellows to commit to Weber State?
Yeah, one of the cool things, I thought you were going to get me in trouble and ask me for my favorite player over my coaching career, and you were going to get me in trouble here today. But, no, listen, I mean, those relationships that I have with a lot of guys that I've been able to coach, obviously Dame, Brandon Roy, Vince Carter, Jamal Crawford, Dirk, LaMarcus Aldridge over the years, Hall of Fame guys. The cool thing about it is that I have relationships with those guys for life, and a big part of it is, some of the cool stuff is a lot of the guys that I coach, their kids are coming up now. So that's been pretty cool to see. But, yeah, no, listen, I mean, life is about relationships, and obviously where we are in college basketball right now is at such a great level. Everybody's excited about it as it should be, obviously coming out of a great Final Four. But, it continues to get better. And like I said, I think the guys that I've coached, will be in communication for sure.
How do you like to see your team play, or does that not matter? Are you the kind of guy who waits until you see the roster to decide how your team is going to play?
Yeah, good question. I think the answer is always somewhere in the middle, right? Like, we have an identity, we have a style of play. We want to be attacking on both ends of the floor. And if you study the history of the game, the champions usually have a similar formula. You have to be elite on both ends of the floor. You just have to. I think when you are, better offensively and defensively, there's a lot of deficiencies that usually don't carry you to a championship, a conference championship, or a Final Four championship. But we want to be elite, on both ends of the floor. We know it's going to take a lot of work. But to your point, I also have an idea of the player that we want to bring in here to fit the system. But I also want to know what our strengths are, right? Because I do want to play to our strengths and to the player's strengths. So I think it's going to be a hybrid in terms of us figuring it out. But my expectation is, for us to win and to win big.
How can you go about making connections with the local high school coaches and players and the AAU folks who do that stuff?
Yeah, we already started doing it. I mean, we're aggressively attacking. We want to keep the best players in Utah home here at Weber State. It's already been the priority for myself and the staff. And we have to be present. We have to be visible, right? And that's on me. But I know a lot of people here have family close around the areas, close around the ties, closer to us. But, yeah, no, that's something that it's a big, big time priority for me. I want to keep the best players in Utah here at Weber.
For those of us who've been here a long time, and that's definitely the two of us, everything has changed because the best players in the state used to go to Utah and BYU, and they were really good in the WAC, and they were really good in the Mountain West at both schools, and now they're in the Big 12, and the bar is just so high. There are good players here, but they're not Big 12 quality. At least they're not Big 12 quality as freshmen and sophomores. How comfortable are you with the pitch? Come here and play for a year or two or three, and as you develop and as you have success, trust it. The calls will come and will help you when the time is right. How comfortable are you with that pitch?
Yeah, it's such a deep question. I think first, like you mentioned, I mean, there is a lot of good players in this state, and the credit goes to the high school coaches. They've done a phenomenal job over the years of developing these guys, and, all the AAU coaches, the elite AAU programs, select teams, travel teams, the parents that have invested in it. I think you're starting to see the fruits, player-wise, of the hard labor that they've done the past 10 to 15 years. There's no question about it. But like I said, we want kids to want to stay here for 4 years. We want kids to want to get their degree from our university because we have full confidence that we're going to have the best player development program in the country. And then we're going to win and win big. And that's going to take for us to keep, the homegrown talent here and rock the Purple Palace once again.
You talk about coaches, assistant coaches having specialties and also being able to recruit, get some local guys on there. I just wanted your thoughts. I believe you're retaining at least one. Get your thoughts on what your staff is going to look like.
Yeah, Jorge Reese, just been a phenomenal coach for us for the program for the past couple of years. He's staying in his hybrid role as assistant general manager and assistant coach. Obviously we hit the ground running with his ties and his connections locally and around the state. But, all our coaching staff, as we round it off, everyone's going to recruit, everyone's going to player develop, everyone's going to game plan. This is a team, and this is a program. So everyone's going to have the same responsibilities. I know sometimes football does it a little different, and us basketball coaches, we study football coaches so much, and I can't it's different, right? You just don't have that many players. You know, it's not two sides of the ball. Like the five guys on the floor have to play both ends. So as much as we want to divide responsibilities, you know, our game is a little different. So, you know, all our coaches, you know, their responsibilities are going to be top to bottom, you know, very active, you know, at a high level.
Caleb Kanales joining us. He's a new basketball coach at Weber State. So you grew up in Laredo, Texas. Man, TV
Yes,
shows,
sir.
music, crazy, just all the stuff. And I'm just curious, we have seen a lot of athletes from Texas come to Utah and play. How much do you plan to recruit there? What are your ties? You were with the Mavericks for 5 years, but you've also been all over the country, Orlando, Indiana, New York, Portland. You've literally coached all over the NBA. What are the ties like in Texas? What kind of emphasis do you want to put on that state?
Yeah, no, deep ties, you know, there in Texas, obviously, have lived there a long time with my family and I. But, no, listen, you know, our roots are here. And like you mentioned, I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to coach all over the country. So, you know, our ties are pretty deep. You know, as you guys know, college basketball is an international sport now. I have experience internationally. So, again, you know, the phone calls that I've been getting these past couple of weeks, you know, are from everywhere in the world. So I feel very confident that we're going to be able to recruit the right type of player and the right type of student athlete that we want for our program. But again, like I said, we're going to aggressively, you know, attack the recruiting here in Utah.
Dive a little bit deeper into your background. You know, I was going to hit you up on the internationals, but you just addressed it. As I understand, you did not play college basketball. So how did you get to where you were and where you are?
Yeah, super blessed. Like when I found out that I had a conversation with myself and found out, man, you got to be really good to play Division I basketball. And, you know, I had a good high school career, solid. But yeah, no, I started, you know, I figured what the next best thing after playing was coaching. So I started, you know, studying coaches in the NBA, how they were getting their start. A lot of coaches, you know, like Eric Spoelstra, studied him really, really deep. You know, he started his, I think he did play college basketball. I think he might have played a year or two in pro, but he started in the video room, you know, so I figured, you know, I can start in the video room and just started, you know, grinding it out there. And, you know, in Portland, was fortunate enough to be there 10 years. I think basically probably covered every position there that there was. And then, like you mentioned, with the Mavs, with the New York Knicks, with the Pacers, I've coached internationally before with the Mexican national team. So, yeah, you know, my journey's been, you know, I'm really grateful for my journey. You know, I feel like I've taken the stairs, you know, and, you know, ready for this opportunity.
I'd love a couple stories about your days coaching the Mexican national team. International sports, every sport, there are crazy stories. And where it really overlaps with college, I do want a crazy story, by the way, but where it overlaps with college is finding these kids who are dual nationals, right, because of a parent or grandparent. They might not be living in the country that they're going to represent. You have to, through your network, find those players, and it seems like that's a little bit like going in the transfer portal.
Yeah, no, like you said, I feel like, you know, my network, because of my experience and been all over, is pretty deep and strong. But like you mentioned, you know, college basketball at its peak is very similar to international basketball when you're trying to qualify for the Olympics. Like you mentioned, obviously played in a lot of cool, crazy places, man. It's intense. It's like an NBA playoff game, like an NCAA tournament. You know, we just lost to Nebraska here a couple of weeks ago at Troy, and it was intense, man. You guys see it on the TV and you guys see it live, but every possession matters, right? And obviously in college basketball, very similar to international, there's not as many games as in the NBA, so I think every game takes a different level of intensity. You know, we want to obviously in our program be ready for that. But, yeah, like you mentioned, the international piece connected to the college, there is a lot of similarities to it, no doubt.
So you don't have any particular ties to Utah, but you have the tie to Damian Lillard, and probably 100 years from now, he's still going to be the most famous Weber State alumni basketball player. And I'm wondering how that came about, your interest, and how much I assume he had an involvement.
Yeah, no, you know, like you mentioned, Dame, I mean, obviously he was my rookie there in Portland when I was with the Blazers, and we drafted him. I think the summer, actually, heading into the draft, I was the interim head coach because it was between Terry Stotts and I, the final two, and then they gave the job to Terry, and Chad Buchanan was our interim GM at the time before they hired Neil. But yeah, no, obviously, have had a deep relationship about Dame, and not only is Dame a Hall of Fame point guard, he's a Hall of Fame person, and his passion and his care for the program, is awesome. It's awesome to see. So yeah, no, I'm excited to be right next to him as we kind of grow this thing back to the top.
I don't know if I think a lot of people in Ogden know, but I don't know if around the state they know how deep his ties run in Ogden and how meaningful that was to him at that point in his life. The people at the school, multiple people I've talked to, absolutely blown away when they found out that he was volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club and was way in deep. I mean, he was given a lot of time of himself, and they got a call from the Boys and Girls Club, and they're like, what are you talking about? We didn't set that up. And they're like, yeah, we know you didn't set it up. He was in here setting it up. And the way he connected with students, which is not an automatic, especially in this era, it was student government that set up a street party. They closed streets and opened theaters downtown, and his draft was, I mean, there were theaters packed, there were people, it was like a county fair with all these booths, and everything short of carnival rides. It was just amazing. It's such a deep tie, and that's why we started, like, how involved is he going to be? Because I don't think he's just going to be a name on a door and some guy who swoops in, 2 nights a year. It's going to be way more than that, but I don't know what it's going to look like because he's not retired yet either.
Yeah, he's our general manager, and we're excited about that. But, the story you mentioned, like I mentioned, aside from the Hall of Fame player that he is and his career is going to continue to go, and hopefully he gets a championship that he deserves. But he is just one of one as a human, like you mentioned. I mean, he is just authentic and real person as it gets. And, like the stories you mentioned, that's who he is, and that's who he's always been. I still remember – and again, I won't bore you guys with the stories, but I remember his draft workout when he came in for his workout, and me and him started watching film together, and just how he took responsibility, how he was coachable. I think that's one of his secret sauces to this day, is that he is one of the most coachable superstars in the world. And I think, like you mentioned, this place, this city and this state, it means a lot to him. And, I'm excited to carry the tradition here at Weir.
It's funny that it turns out that you're going to have a new football coach and basketball coach at the same time. Both of you are of the same age. He'll turn 47 this year. I believe you're already 47. And I've known him for about 20 years, speaking of Care, and he's as cocky as all get out. So I don't want to make sure that you take a backseat to him whatsoever. So go ahead and win the Big Sky in your first year and put him in his place, okay?
That's gonna be my guy, man. We're gonna do it together. I'm excited. I'm excited about his program and his vision. And you guys know college sports, man. Like it's pretty cool when you can do it together as a university and as an athletic program. Obviously our athletic director Tim and our president Leslie Durham. We're all fired up and we're excited, and we know it starts with football. So we're gonna be out there and supporting our coach and our team.
Well, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to you putting the roster together. It is just so interesting how people try to cobble the pieces of the puzzle together. Good luck with that, Caleb, and we'll look forward to talking to you again down the road.
Okay, appreciate it. Love to have you guys out for a game anytime, but appreciate you guys.
There's Caleb Kanales. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
Quality proteins aren't just for special occasions. With Omaha Steaks, you get unbeatable flavor and value delivered right to your door. They have an unmatched selection of perfectly portioned proteins, including USDA-certified tender steaks, burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and more. All flash frozen at their moment of peak quality, then quickly delivered to your door in a dependable cooler. So a great dinner is just minutes away. From Taco Tuesday to a weekend feast. Omaha Steaks practically invented meat delivery, and they've been perfecting the art of premium proteins for over 100 years. With their 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can order with complete confidence. Taste the Omaha Steaks difference, a better, more convenient way to buy proteins. Start getting flavorful proteins delivered today. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code AUDIO at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, code AUDIO. Terms apply. See site for details.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at Geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
To hear one of the greats say that about me, like, man, that's special. That's why you do it, because you want respect from your peers, and Kawhi he's not just no ordinary peer. Again, he's one of the greats, and so to hear him say that about me, that guy took a Defensive Player of the Year award away from me. Like, he's a man of few words, but when he speaks, it's loud, because he doesn't speak much, and I don't think there's a player in the NBA that does not respect Kawhi Leonard.
That's Draymond Green reacting to praise from Kawhi Leonard. Yes, PK, the guys who are now in the middle of the league and the guys who are playing in the play-in games are now talking about being the greats. It's almost in the past tense now, a new generation taking over in the NBA. But Draymond Green will probably go right into the Hall of Fame in the broadcast booth when he's done.
Ooh, you think Draymond Green goes in the Hall of Fame, huh?
Yeah, I think he's done enough winning. He's recognized as a great defensive player. I would expect he gets in.
Okay.
NBA play-in tournament wraps up tonight. Charlotte is at Orlando. The winner's the 8th seed in the East and plays Detroit. That game tips off at 5:30. The Warriors play the Suns in Phoenix at 8 o'clock. Winner is 8th in the West and will take on Oklahoma City. Both those games on Prime Video. Lakers star Luka Doncic and Pistons star Cade Cunningham will be eligible for end-of-season awards after the NBA and the Players Association agreed Thursday that both will be allowed to bypass the 65-game threshold for eligibility requirements. There is a clause in the collective bargaining agreement that says extraordinary circumstances they can petition. Doncic appealed on traveling to see his child born and Cunningham for the collapsed lung. PK, this reminds me of players going to the NCAA for a 6th year of eligibility.
Why?
We got rules, but wait a minute. Mine was a little different. Give me a break.
Yeah, did Doncic miss 15 games or whatever it is? What's 82 minus 65? More than 15 there.
He reached 64 games is what he's sitting at.
Oh, yeah, but what about all those other games that he missed? It's not about that one. How long was he gone for the birth of his child?
2 games.
2 games? Okay, well, then you got all these other games that he missed. I mean, come on. Either we're going to have rules. The box is open, and Pandora has been cut loose, and it's going to run amok in the NBA.
That's a fact. I totally agree, man. This is going to be like, well, he hurt his knee 3 times, so we gave him a 7th year.
Yeah, but that's
former
a whole
NBA
year.
player and assistant coach Damon Jones expected to become the first person. Yeah. Damon Jones expected to become the first person to plead guilty in a gambling sweep that led to the arrest of more than 30 people, including reputed mobsters and other basketball figures. His change of plea hearing scheduled for April 28th, after which he'll be sentenced. And presumably, with that plea, he might end up testifying against somebody. Let's see where that goes.
Juicy. Mobsters. Who's
DJ
play
and
Damon
PK.
Jones in the movie?
In the movie, right?
Hashtag college basketball.
Former Utah player Keanu Dawes and Terrence Brown Jr. have landed. Keanu Dawes, that news was breaking late in our show yesterday. He's going to Kansas. Terrence Brown Jr. is going to North Carolina. Dawes was being pursued by BYU, among other programs, but he is going to be a Jayhawk.
This is impressive for guys who are on two losing teams. One goes to Carolina, or one losing team. One goes to Carolina, and the other goes to Kansas. Wow, they had some talent there.
Apparently, right?
And we'll see what they do in their new roles and their new teams.
Yeah. How big are those roles? We'll see.
Right.
All right, DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
We're less than a week away from the NFL draft now, and the Chiefs general manager, Brett Veach, said he expects an active first round, multiple trades. Quote, it should be an entertaining night. There'll probably be a lot of trades. That's what a draft like this, when you don't have 2 or 3 top quarterbacks or a Will Anderson or Myles Garrett, it lends itself to open up a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. There's not this huge gap and huge fall off.
Yeah, we shall see. That fans love that stuff, though.
Yep. Prepare for some wheeling and dealing, people moving up, people moving down, people moving in, people moving out. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
A former Alabama football player is facing charges of wire fraud and identity theft after he allegedly used wigs and fake driver's licenses to impersonate NFL players for the purpose of securing nearly $20 million in loans. Prosecutors allege that Luther Davis pretended to be 3 different players from May of 23 until October of 24 to secure loans from multiple lending agencies. He impersonated Michael Penix Jr., the Falcons quarterback, tight end David Njoku from the Browns, and defensive back Xavier McKinney from the Packers.
Well, I guess under this circumstance, there's advantages in being as small as Britton Covey is.
There you go. Going to be hard to impersonate him, huh?
Yeah.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Beginning in 2027, college football could have an earlier start to the season. The NCAA's Football Oversight Committee recommended a standard start before Labor Day weekend. What has previously been referred to as Week 0 will now become the opening week. That would give them 14 weeks, and the teams could have 2 bye games and allow some more scheduling flexibility for the college football playoff expansion and associated games. And PK, what I heard here, even though I didn't read it, is we're moving back a week because we think the NFL is going to move back a week and seize Labor Day weekend. So we're going to start a week earlier. I think both those things are going to happen. The football season is going to creep back towards summer for both the college and the pro, I expect.
Oh, I thought I'm confused on that because I thought the Utes always played on the Thursday to get away from Labor Day weekend, which meant they were already playing Labor Day weekend. So I'm not sure what's going on here.
They can play a Thursday
earlier. So most
earlier
teams play
now.
Labor Day weekend. Now they're going to play the Saturday before that. So
Oh,
the Utes
okay,
can move back
that's
even
it.
5 more days, and everybody else can move back 7.
So it's not before Labor. It's before Labor Day, but instead of 3 days or 2 days before the weekend, it's 9 days before the weekend.
Yeah, it's essentially a full week ahead of time. You actually can play on that Thursday before that. So we're talking late August is when this is going to get going.
Fine.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
There's a rocket. Mike Trout blasts off for the Bronx one more time.
Oh, look how far that went. 446 feet Trout.
Swinging a line drive. Base hit in the right. Caglione up for the ball. Green racing around third. Third to the plate. Not in time. At first slide. Tigers win. Oh, man.
Highlights from around Major League Baseball. The Power Show continued at Yankee Stadium. Aaron Judge went deep again. Mike Trout went deep again. Angels get the win 11-4. So for the 4-game series, they split it 2-2. And Judge hits 4 homers in the 4 games, and Trout hits 5 homers in the 4 games. Man, Couple of celebrities putting on the show on the biggest stage, PK, just day after day. They just able to sustain the excellence.
I didn't see the game live, but I saw the highlights, obviously, and that Trout bomb. I mean, my goodness gracious. That was so far out there. As the announcer said, did you see how far that went? And I think he set the record for most home runs of a visiting team against the Yankees in a series.
Yep.
I'm honoring him with my Angels hat today. At 5 in the series, 7 total. He's a Hall of Famer, that's for sure. And balls were flying like crazy at the Yankee Stadium, the current version of Yankee Stadium across the street from the other one.
Parker Messick, rookie left-hander for Cleveland, had a no-hitter through 8 innings. First pitch in the ninth, though, he gave up the old CNI single. They had the second baseman over towards the bag, and it went through the hole there between first and second. So Cleveland still had a no-hitter in 45 years, and Messick settles with a 2-hitter, and they beat the Orioles 4-2. Gave them a thrill, but couldn't quite seal the deal there in the ninth.
Yeah, well, we'll see if this kid ends up being anything, because there's been a bunch of guys they've never heard of occasionally get a no-hitter. Now he's just getting started, and that was the first time I heard of him. So we'll follow him in the coming years and see if there's something there.
Remember when it was incredible when baseball teams had $100 million payrolls and then 2 and then 3 and multiple teams of 3, and now the Dodgers have reset the spending record. $515 million in payroll and luxury tax last season en route to that second straight World Series. And that 515 record probably falls again this year. But $345 for the salaries, and then another $169 million in luxury taxes. So it paid off for them with another World Series.
Unless they're going to change the rules, it's hard for me to criticize them doing it. And if they want to see what happens here next winter when they start and so forth, I mean, I think obviously they're going to try to get the salary cap going on and all that. We'll see what difference that makes, if it can actually happen, if there's a lockout and all that stuff. I assume there will be. But you're playing by the rules as presently constituted. And do the Dodgers have an obligation to worry about the fill-in-the-blank team, the Miami Marlins, or do they have an obligation to the Dodgers to beat the snot out of everybody? Now, they have won the World Series twice, and this last one literally was by an inch or two, multiple times. So you don't know if that's going to be the difference maker because baseball's funky that way. But, I suppose I would like to see a salary cap, but I have to see the particulars that go in the salary cap, because I think it stinks for the NBA that you draft a guy, you develop a guy, and your team is too good, and so then you got to let that guy go because somebody in New York stated a rule that dictates you can't do this or that.
Right.
I have a problem with that because you've invested someone, and it could be several years. And if in Oklahoma City may be facing that, and you've talked about how the Jazz are facing that, and they could be facing that. We'll see how it goes, and that prevents you from trying to win. And we criticize teams for trying to lose, and now we're forcing teams, preventing them trying to win. Where's the balance there? I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer to anything for that matter, but I'm just throwing that stuff out there.
Yeah, nobody has the answer, and that's why they're worried about a labor stoppage next year, because no one can agree on the answer. There's all these factors. Here's one story, right? The Dodgers, 515, and the old record was the Mets, who had spent a year before spent I think it was $440 million or something like that on their salaries and luxury tax. So that's the owner's argument. But sitting there watching the last few innings of that Padre-Mariner game, they went to a commercial break, and I'm clicking around. I see a story about the sale of the Padres, so obviously I click on that. And they were valued at $3.1 million by Forbes and somebody else who does an evaluation of them. But there were two evaluations of them there at $3.1
millions, but
$3.1 billion, right? Sorry, $3.1 billion. But the bidding apparently has gone to $3.5. And one story, when I started looking at multiple stories, was speculating it was getting closer to $4. And the old record is for the Mets, and it's like $2.5 billion. And in the story, they went into how, well, this is just going to be the argument for the Players Association. Yeah, you're spending more money, but you're making more money and you're worth more money. The only time you sell the teams is literally when somebody dies. The Padre owner passed away 2 years ago, and the Padres are now going to go for more than the Mets went for a few years ago. So the argument is that, well, the value of everything is skyrocketing. Why shouldn't salaries skyrocket right along with it? And that's actually a pretty good argument. It makes me wonder how much these team guys are going to dig in.
Yeah.
But
I think with or without a cap, the salaries are going to skyrocket. And that's not real money, the value of your franchise. Right? That's like, I own $1 million house, and until I sell it, whoop-de-doo, I don't have a penny for it. So I think that's two different things. That's not real money in your pocket, whereas salaries is real money in your pocket. The assessed valuation of something is not actual money until it's cashed in, and who knows when that's going to be. And we understand that, and there's going to be a time that the Minnesota Twins are going to sell, and they're going to be more valued than the Padres are right now. That's sort of inflation. So I'm not sure I really buy that argument.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
RSL's back in action. Haven't played in 2 weeks, but they welcome San Diego to America First Field Saturday night. RSL lost their opener, but unbeaten since then. First kick, 7:30. Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, is going to join us later today. I understand there's more players returning to health. They might be getting Andre Yedlin back. We'll talk with Pablo about that coming up at 9 o'clock. And you can listen to the game Saturday night, 6:30 with the pre-match show, and then first kick at 7:30 here on The Zone.
You're going to be on the call?
PK. What?
You're going to be on the call?
I will be.
Sweet.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
It's different, but Veg was in the Olympic not long ago. Was at the World Championship not long ago. Kool-Aid won a gold medal for his country at last World Championship. Gunnar won a bunch of gold medals, overtime goals, and so on and so forth for his Memorial Cup and so on. They've been in a really high-stake game. But having that said, now it will be the first time all together.
There's the head coach, Andre Tourney, answering the inevitable questions. How are the Mammoth going to do? They don't have playoff experience, and he points out in international play they have been in big games and under pressure representing their various countries. So obviously they're hoping that translates, even though, as he points out, they haven't done this together. But they will Sunday night at 8 o'clock in Las Vegas. Golden Knights and the Mammoth T-Mobile Arena. Game 1 Sunday at 8. Game 2 is Tuesday, and then the Delta Center gets the playoff magic Friday night, Game 3.
Excited.
Yep.
The way I look at it is, okay, you don't have this together, but at the same time, you don't have a bunch of losing in the playoffs together either. So you get the chance to write the script, and it starts, as you say, Sunday night in Vegas. And what are they going to do? Nobody cares that they played and lost last night. That game didn't count, really didn't matter. And so now this is a clean slate for this franchise in its second season in Utah. You got a bunch of new players together. They don't have the experience, but what does that mean? Oh, maybe they don't know any better. You know, you can spin that as much as you want, and we all get to see it unfold.
They really treated last night's game like a scrimmage, just trying to stay sharp. Dylan Gunther didn't play, and Veggie got pulled after 2 periods, so the backup Nessek could get the 3rd period, and they ended up losing 5-3 to the Blues. There's an empty netter late, but yeah, there you go. Didn't really matter. They're locked into that Vegas series. So Friday the 24th, Monday the 27th, games 3 and 4 in the Delta Center. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. That's what's trending. It's brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Coming up, David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, will be here at 8:30. Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, at 9. And Danny Webster at 9:30 covers the Vegas Golden Knights. He's an NHL writer for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and we'll talk to him about that playoff series with the Knights, the Golden Knights, and the Mammoth. Coming up next, it's the question of the day. Stay with us.
Just a bunch of guys sitting around and talking sports. This is Scotty G and Friends.
Logan Cooley, 2 years ago, is about the time things really started to break that this organization was going to move from Phoenix to Salt Lake City. And now 2 years later, you're in the playoffs. Just what does that feeling feel like for you as a player, knowing that you're going to be playing postseason hockey?
It's awesome. I mean, I think as a little kid, you dream about eventually one day winning the Stanley Cup, and just the experience we're going to gain from being in the playoffs. You know, there's some guys that on our team, I'm one of them, that haven't even experienced playoff hockey. And, you know, you watch on TV, just the excitement in the buildings, how intense the hockey is. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be unbelievable. And I'm sure the fans are going to have the Delta Center rocking. And we can't honestly wait to, you know, get started once playoffs start. You know, it's going to be the most fun hockey that, you know, I think I'm going to be a part of.
Catch Scotty G and Friends weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are brought to you in part by Beehive Meals. The KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Question of the morning, Brian Santiago. BYU Athletic Director says the Cougars will never have a private equity firm be part of its sports programs. Why so adamant? We have a lot of answers that run along the lines of, as Steven says, because they already have private equity. Mark, because there's no need. Jenna, they're literally owned by a private equity firm. Pockets are deep. They are full of cash. They don't need to let somebody else in and help finance them. As John says, they are not funded by the state. So there it is, PK. All is well. Bank accounts are full. NIL money is paid. No need. Just no need.
Okay, that assumes then if there was a need that they would do it. Is that what Santiago would have said if all those things, I mean, they have the donors, and I assume owned is referencing the Latter-day Saint Church, and you know, we've read reports about them and the I guess billions or millions that they have stock. I don't really care how much money they have and do whatever they want. But you know, we've heard about that. So I guess that's the reference there. To what degree is that is the sponsoring institution giving the university money for its athletic program? I thought that they go to great lengths to tell us money isn't being used, or at least tithing money isn't being used. I don't know if general fund money, I don't know how the funds work and any of that. And so what does that mean? If they didn't have all that, would they do it? Is Santiago saying we have no need, or is he saying that we don't believe a private equity thing is the way to go? Or is he saying both?
I don't know. I haven't heard that teased all the way out. I would think that off the top, they don't need it. They have enough billionaire boosters and entrepreneurs, and we know the companies. We've heard of that. So it just sounds like they're good to go. Now, good to go, that, you know, there's degrees to that. And maybe if this thing keeps accelerating, maybe we'll find out to what degree. You know, maybe you have money to compete at one level, but not money to compete at another level. And how badly do you want to get to that next level? And what are you willing to do? And I think really the word in this case, what would you be willing to compromise? You know, because I think the thought is with private equity, well, you are giving up some degree of control. Now, I think from one private equity firm to another, that that stuff might work a little differently, but you'd definitely be giving up some level of control. So I don't think you do it unless you have to. And, if they weren't winning as much and they were short on money and they wanted more, where is the line? At what point do you compromise? Even if he said that now, I think that's one of those things, we've talked about this in life. You can think of, what you're going to do in a year or 2 or 5 or whatever. But we're old enough to have gone through that enough times that we realize, when you get there a year or 2 or 5 later, things look different. And guess what? I'm not going to do what I thought I was going to do 2 or 5 years ago. So I don't know what he would say to that, and I don't know if they would stick to it when they got to that point. Everything in college sports is changing so fast right now. I just think right now they have no interest in it because right now they got billionaire boosters, and they've got at least what they think they need right now, and then, we'll see going forward where things go.
Well, I can tell you that they thought they were underfunded compared to Texas Tech, and Texas Tech wallowed them both times last season. So if you're comfortable at that level, having a very nice season, but when you play the top dog, you get creamed both times, once on the road, once at a neutral field. And so are they comfortable with that? Because that's the reality. And speaking to BYU coaches, they outlined some of the costs and the defensive line. The front seven that Texas Tech was able to put out there, they said, was more than the entire defense, if not the entire team. So do they have enough? Enough for what? I mean,
right.
That remains
great.
to be seen. What is enough for?
Yeah. And that's why I say 1 or 2 or 5 years, because right now it doesn't feel like, I don't think any of us have heard, like the finance. I mean, everything's going up, so the finance have gone up, but it doesn't sound like it's accelerated, right? And another year or 2 of losing to Texas Tech twice a year, again, that's one of those things in a couple of years people might feel differently. If you got a 6-game losing streak over 3 years and you keep bumping up against the same team in the conference title game, maybe people will need to plunk down or want to plunk down more money. And, 5 years out, we could have massive realignment. If the Big Ten decides to do some big 32-team national league and go all in and just say, forget the NCAA, we're just going to run our own thing and be our own thing and be the beast. If you have a chance to get into that, you might need to come up with a lot of money real quickly, and maybe that's a different scenario and you get a different answer. Or maybe billionaires just pony up. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I don't think that they will lose 6 times in the next 3 years because they're going to play Texas Tech every year, but it's already there. You lost to them in large part because they have the most money. Their softball team is ranked number 1 because they have the most money. Go look at the history. Just put Google seasons results by Texas Tech's softball team, and you can see it. You can just see how they were a decent program, but not at the level of an Oklahoma or a Texas until last year. And the record that they posted, the numbers will just jump out at you. And they had never won a Big 12 title ever. Now, sure, they had Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska back in former versions of the Big 12. I understand all that. But they hadn't gotten done. And they've had decent programs for a time, but they were sort of, a couple games, 2-3 games above 500, what have you. And then they go and do what they do. So that record last year will jump out at you. And then they lose. Oregon creams them in the playoff. And their number 1 booster says, well, we're not going to back off. In fact, I'm going to double down. So sure, BYU has money to compete if that's what you're satisfied with, but do you have enough money to win all the way, right? Because whatever level you are, you want more. Now, if you get to the top level, you want to continue, right? The athletic program's desire is not to go back. It is to continue or maintain or get to that level, increase it. So I don't know that I can sit here and say they have enough money, because it's enough money for what? To field a good team? Yeah. Is that good enough? Now, for me personally, yes, that is good enough. If I were a BYU fan and my team won 10, 11, 12 games virtually every year, I would be fine with it, 100%. And they lose and they don't ever win the national title, I would be fine with it. that I would have a lot of good times. To me, it's good times along the way rather than the final result, because the final result most often is going to be disappointing. Even Ohio State, right? Last year was great. This year, not so much. They lost the Big 12 title or the Big 10 title game and then don't win it all in the playoff. So for them, that's a downer. For me, they had another banner season. So it depends on what you're looking for. What is acceptable for you? And then they have to decide, because I'm not sure that they have enough money to compete at the highest level. And everybody talks about, we just played Kanales. Yeah, we're going to be great at both ends, and we're going to be aggressive. And you fill in the blank for every new coach across the country, man, woman, doesn't matter which sport. And they basically say the same thing on press conference hiring day, right? It doesn't vary that much. And Calhoun, Jared Calhoun, well, we got a 9 seed, so that's why I went to Cincinnati. I'm not allowed. I can say BS, but I can't say what that word is on the radio, because if they had a 7 seed, that means you were going to stay?
Yeah.
No, you weren't going to stay.
But
you want to BS us during the press conference. So, wow, we got that 9 seed, so we're out the door. Okay, I think Iowa got a 9 seed in advance. So you're just making stuff up. You're saying stuff to say it, to make yourself look good. Do they have enough money to win at a decent level? Yes. Do they have enough money to win at the most level, highest level? Don't think so. At least not yet.
So does he have plans for that down the line? I mean, Brian Santiago, you've seen, and granted, but it's probably a younger, feistier version of Santiago, but the fire still burns. The bonfire may not be 20 feet tall, but you could still warm yourself around the campfire that is his personality. I wonder what he wants. And I wonder what he's, how hard he's willing to push to get there, and how many conversations there are with how many billionaire donors to get whatever money they need. Because you're right, that Texas Tech defense, they put Bailey on one side and they put what's his face on the other side, and I'm blanking on his name. And that was ferocious. And you don't just get that. Well, you don't get it anywhere, but you certainly don't get it at Texas Tech without paying for it. I mean, you probably don't get it at Ohio State without paying for it either. So it's going to take money to compete. I mean, there are people that quote about, you will not outbid us. Where do they set the goal? And then are they willing to pay to get there? And it sounds like there's no donor fatigue, at least in one donor, there's no donor fatigue. Now, as that quote gets older, maybe there will be. Maybe the checks get bigger and everybody else's checks are getting bigger too. And, you just keep chasing something you don't quite get to. Maybe they will have donor fatigue down the line. But it doesn't sound like it now, and I think that's why – one of the reasons why Brian says that. And maybe it's just a case of, hey, it is a private school and the church leadership has no interest in doing that, so either raise the money privately or content yourself with what you have. Maybe that is it. Maybe there is an absolute wall that, can't be breached there. But if this turns out to be something more normal in college athletics, could it change over time? I mean, we've seen other changes we didn't really expect. At that school, at another school, in conferences. We didn't expect Pac-12 to go away. Here we are. I mean, he says it, and he believes it when he says it today, but what are circumstances going to be like in 5 or 10 years?
I think the name you were thinking of, Jacob Rodriguez, is the other guy.
Yes.
I, from my experience of knowing Brian in his 20s versus now in his 50s, not much has changed. He just has to. I mean, he's evolved and learned to become a better human being. I've got no problem saying that.
But he's still super competitive.
Right. I think what he's doing is he's learning how to channel that competitiveness in the manner that Tom Homo did. Tom Homo, during his reign, at no point ever embarrassed the university with his competitiveness overflowing. And we see sometimes, a lot of times, that happens with people in the environment. I mean, we just saw it with Ariema.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
I was watching that thing. I was watching that game with my wife, and he goes and has the little dust up with Coach Staley there of South Carolina. And I'm telling her, oh, he's going to come out and apologize tomorrow. Okay, he did, and they made peace, and which I thought, probably take a couple of days, and and then everything will go back to normal. They're in a competitive environment. He was mad and furious and blah, blah, blah. Those things happen. I don't think anything less of Gino Auriemma today than I did versus that statement. And Dawn Staley say, I'm going to kick his you-know-what. Yes, she's in the moment. And duh. I'd probably do the same thing. And so, but at BYU, you can't be in that moment. And I think Brian has learned how to channel that competitiveness in the way that Tom Homo did, so he's not embarrassing the university. And then he retires and is going to be leaving here in a few weeks to go back to the Bay Area as a Latter-day Saint mission president. You know, Tom Homo has as much fire as anybody. He's just learned how to channel it. Brian Santiago is wired slightly different, so he's had to learn it, and he's in the process of learning it, and I think he's doing a really good job at learning it, right? But in his core, as you say, he wants to win. So they've got to keep pushing the envelope, because when it comes to winning, they want to win as much as the next guy, whoever the next guy is, whether it's Texas Tech, Indiana, Ohio State, LSU, whatever it might be. They want to do that, but they got to make sure that there's certain criteria that they can hold to, and they can't go overboard. I mean, you look at the Lane Kiffin posting pictures of himself in bathing suits with gorgeous women. That's not going to fly if Kalani Sitake did that. You know what I mean? So those are the different standards. You just can't do that. Lane Kiffin can get away with it because he's kind of an oddball and he's at a public university and they don't have the image. You see it. You see in the Latter-day Saint authorities when they show up to games, they're in suits all the time, right? Yeah. So they have this image, and that's fine. That's their choice. They can do whatever they want. At BYU, you got to do things a certain way. But when it comes to winning, you got to have the cash. That's just a fact now. And it probably was always a fact, but it's obviously far more pronounced now than ever. And to what level do they want to go? And this private equity thing, it doesn't seem like they want to have any connection to that, because then you start inviting influence. And that's where I wanted to go a little bit with the discussion. The word influence, I don't understand how a private equity firm works. I'm a janitor's son, man. And as a high schooler, I was embarrassed like that by that because I was an idiot. Now I can't be more proud of my father that that's what he did. He dropped out of high school to help his family, and that was the situation. And he raised kids and said, go get an education. And we did. And look at us now. Not that I'm anything special, but at least I got that, and I'm living comfortably. So I'm grateful for his desire to impart that wisdom to me and do what he did and made those sacrifices, right? So I don't have any involvement with private equity, and I don't come from money whatsoever. So I can't speak to that, but I know they have influence. And now, and it's related to the U of U, because you said they give up you said if you invite a private equity in, you're going to give up control, which is some control, which is the same word as influence. At the same time, these donors, they want to have influence, even if they're not private equity firms. Maybe they're individual and it's not written down in a contract, but they want to have influence. They want to win. They want to buddy up to people to young men who are way younger than them, obviously, and then they want to have influence. So even if it's not an official private equity, if you accept money from boosters, at what cost do you have to pay when you get that money? That's a fascinating sort of gray area that I'm intrigued by.
It's a super gray area, and I think it's something we see across all of college sports. The people who have the money to give largely got the money because they've been in charge of something, and they are used to being, even if they inherited the money, they've been in charge of the money for however many years since they inherited it. And in a lot of cases, they probably earned it, started a company or whatever, and they're used to having a say, and they want to say, and they may not want the final say. Some might. Some boosters seem more heavy-handed than others. I mean, I think we can all spot one booster who's like literally running the Board of Regents now. That's probably the extreme example of having influence and being in charge. Look at Texas Tech. And their booster literally chairing the Board of Regents. All right. But there's always the old stories since before we even started doing this, PK, of the booster who wrote whatever size check they were writing, 50 years ago, who wanted to fire a coach because that coach wasn't winning, or wanted to hire a coach and was telling the AD and was bending the AD's ear that, hey, this is the next coach. This is who should get it. I mean, those stories are as old as time.
I told you a story that this is years ago, and I won't give up names and I won't give up schools, but it was spoken to me, and it was a while after the fact. It was probably at least 2 years after the fact of when the incident happened. But there was a particular game, and a quarterback did not play well, and there was a booster who came into the locker room and spoke to the coaches and said, "We need to make a change." And when I was told that story after the fact, I said, "You got to be kidding me." No. I mean, I knew he wasn't kidding me.
Right.
So it was sort of a rhetorical, "You got to be kidding me." But that's the influence that they have. And this is going back several years, so don't bother guessing the names because you're probably not going to get it. But yeah, that was before all this, and way before the NIL. But that was a booster who was having money available to donate, and so they want something in return, and that something in return thought to that person that it was appropriate to go in after a tough loss and make that we need to change, make that claim to the professional who is doing this every day. Well, there you go. That's what you got.
Right. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Stay with us, more in a moment. It's DJ and PK. Got another question we need to get to here because David Locke is coming up. What do you want to talk about? We will get to that. That's on the way. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Oh, also PK, got to update a recruiting story from earlier in the week. We were talking about Kyle Whittingham's impact in Utah, and somebody texted me immediately afterwards with an interesting thing. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
Okay.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
Travis Yost, our guest, he covers the NHL for TSN.
For the Mammoth, I think they're the fourth best team in the West. I think that they would be a likely favorite against Anaheim. They could be or should be a favorite in a series against Vegas. If the Mammoth close the season as we expect, by goal differential, this is the best team that has ever been on the ice for either the Utah or Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes franchise by goal differential this season right here, right now. This team absolutely should not be thinking we made it to the playoffs. What an accomplishment. At this point, considering how good the Mammoth have been, and I mean that, they really should be thinking, how do we go in and win a round in the playoffs? And I think if you've got Anaheim on the ice, even if you're the road team in that series, that's a matchup the Mammoth should want, and it's one they should win.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, we were talking earlier this week about Kyle Whittingham because he flipped the West High quarterback. Lapati was supposed to go to Illinois, had a verbal commit to Illinois. But now he's committed to Michigan. What kind of impact is Kyle Whittingham going to have on recruiting here in Utah? And I was saying, well, everybody is recruiting here in Utah, and we're seeing kids scatter everywhere. And Utah and BYU are they're definitely holding some kids here, but we just went down the list, and it's Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, everybody recruits in Utah, and everybody's pulling players out of here. So if Kyle takes a couple of players, now as soon as I said that, somebody sent me an Instagram post. There is a sophomore at Crimson Cliffs in St. George, Major Stokes, who is a major talent. Now, he's only a sophomore. He's class of 28, and he just committed to Michigan. Now, there's 2 years he could flip, who knows and all that. But and they presented it without comment. It was just kind of like, don't underestimate Kyle. He's going to be here in Utah. I found 2028 pretty interesting. That's 2 years, and I have no idea if this kid's a mission kid or not. But a redshirt, a mission kid, it's like we talked about Kyle coaching for 5 years. It could be 5 years before this kid is playing. And do you make an impact right away at Michigan? So I guess the point is he's not going away, but I looked at the recruiting in this next recruiting class, and there are 5 kids committed to 5 different schools, and only one of them is in the state of Utah. And again, it's like West Virginia is here taking a kid. Oklahoma is here taking a kid. The whole country's recruiting here. I have a little problem wringing my hands over what Kyle's going to do, even though it's clear he is going to be active here. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
One point of order, Stokes has not committed to Michigan. He calls him one of his top options, though.
Oh, not officially a commit.
No, not according to what I just saw.
Okay.
Yeah. Sophomores commit is take that with a grain of salt anyway.
Yep.
Sure. DJ, I get your point. What's a few here? What's a few there? Go ask Arizona State and the U of A. What's a few here? What's a few there? Every year.
Well, I would say different than that. I would say that's an argument to a point, and you're right about that. I would just say it's going to be a few here and a few there, whether Kyle's at Michigan or not. I mean, Kyle at Michigan there's a kid at Stansbury, Bronx Baker, is taking off for West Virginia. He's going across the country to play in the Big 12.
Sure.
At least when you go to Michigan, I mean, it is Michigan. They did just win a national title.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter where you go. It's not like, oh, okay, we feel better because he went to Michigan. That doesn't matter. He can go to Chico State, and if he blows up as an NFL talent, that's a loss. It is something that the Michigan issue is. It's not just, well, it's a couple to Michigan. No, it's a cumulative effect. Here are more top flight players leaving, and you talk about things being copycatish, so to speak. Well, sure, if they can have success here and there, well, and we always hear for women, oh, I watched the WNBA and that inspired me as a little girl because if Marsha or Monica or Mary Lou can do it, I can do it too. Yep. Well, how many kids have gone to Michigan from Utah and flourished? Well, we know the Gentry kid went, well, he's from Colorado, but in LDS kids, it's sort of the same. And then he comes back went to BYU, didn't really come back, but so he's been able to play at BYU and he was at Michigan. Well, if there's a bunch of kids over time, that opens up eyes for Utah kids thinking, yeah, I could go to Michigan because player XYZ went from Utah in there, so they can do it. I can do it. I think it's something that to be concerned about. And, well, in 5 years, Kyle won't be there. Yeah, but Gennaro Guilford, Lewis Powell, Jason Beck, Jay Hill, those guys might be there. Ty Detmer's nephew, who was at Utah as the QB coach, is there. And so they have familiar ties to this place. You got to watch it, man, because what seems to be just a little now, and I could speak to this and I've spoken to guys from the U of A and from ASU, and it got to the point where they basically don't even recruit them because they know they're not going to get them. And we'll see if these new guys here, one, Dillingham's going into his fourth year, and the other guy from San Jose, what's his name? He's at the U of A. He's going into his third year now, and we'll see if that can change. Yeah, if that makes a difference, and can they keep guys home? Because then, too, the flip side is if you keep guys home and they have tons of success, we saw it. That U of U put up billboards throughout the valley saying hometown hero, and they would have Zane Beatles, his pitcher there. And where did he go? Cottonwood or Hillcrest? And they'd have that up there. And so you see that, and you see these teams having success, and then they could say, hey, look, man, you stay here. Well, one time you were gone. I had an intense discussion about this with Trevor Riley when he was sitting in for you. This is several years back. And I think one of the BYU coaches, was it Cahoon at the time? I think he was making that argument when he was receivers coach. You stay here and you have a network for the next 40 years. You really are a hometown hero. If you play in the pros, great, because then you'll make the big money and you don't have to necessarily worry about it. But the Kyle Van Noys are few and far between of guys who play and they're in the NFL for 12, 13 years. The average lifespan is just a few years, and they don't even get the pension. But if you stay here and then you stay in the community and you're from here, then you have all these contacts and everything. And so that puts it into people's minds. Yeah, I can do that. So I take nothing for granted and say, well, it's just a couple of kids here and there, because here and there over 25 years, I can speak to the two Arizona schools, and so much of the homegrown talent has left.
I can say the same thing about San Diego State, so I don't underestimate kids leaving. My point is kids were already leaving when Kyle Whittingham was still at the U. You can go back and look in Iowa and Baylor and
right,
Cal,
but they weren't going to Michigan.
Right, but there are very few kids who can go to top 5 schools, and you lose a handful of kids to the top 5. But when you're losing against school 25, 35, and 45, routinely, which is already happening, that goes to the point about what's happened to ASU and San Diego State and Arizona. You can't even win against the 25th, 35th. I get Michigan's got built-in advantages, and now for however many years they got Kyle. But you're losing kids to Baylor. You're losing kids to Cal. It's a much bigger problem than a top 5 school with a coach with a local tie. The problem, which is well established over the last 5 years or whatever, I don't know, maybe it's more than that, but just going back a few years, it's already established with Kyle here.
I disagree with that because I could find somebody to replace the kid at Cal, but you've just told me this kid's a top 5 talent, and replacing top 5 talent is way harder than replacing top 50 talent.
But they've been losing top 5 talent for 20 years. I mean, Haloti Ngata at Highland was going to Oregon, and then he's going to the NFL, and then he's going to the Hall of Fame.
And now it's going to be even more. So that exasperates the problem. It doesn't diminish it or keep it the same. Now I got to worry about Michigan, where before I didn't. I've always had to worry about Stanford and Oregon. Now I got to worry about Michigan. So I'm compounding my problem. But it's not staying the same. It's getting worse, potentially.
They'd already lost Lapati. He was going to Illinois. They didn't take him. Michigan didn't take him away from Utah and BYU. They took him away from Illinois. Illinois had already taken him away from Utah.
Yeah, but only one quarterback can play. So it's the other stuff. Quarterbacks, fine. And who knows? Quarterbacks are the most overrated, underrated position in sports when it comes to recruits, and even at the NFL level. We've seen that a million times.
And if he struggles with the transition to college quarterback, he's got the athletic ability and the size to play another position. And Kyle, we know Kyle well enough to know he looks at him and thinks he could be a really good quarterback, and I know he could be a really good safety too, and he probably could.
Then I'm even more worried about it. Yeah, exactly.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. David Locke joins us coming up. Questions for David Locke. We got to get to those. What are the Jazz going to do in this most intriguing of off seasons? Stay with us.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. David Locke is coming up. He's going to join us a little later in this show, actually in our next segment. And what are we going to talk with him about? The season is over. Where should we go? You know, during the season, there's always storylines. The games pretty much provide us whatever we need to talk about. So we're largely set. But here in the off season, with the playoffs starting and all that, there's a lot of different directions we could go. What do you want to know from him? People want to know the craziest things, PK, which you well know. It's why you put this question up. Elda wants to know, when is David retiring? Yeah, I can tell you that. I have the answer. On the 12th of never. He'll just stop doing one thing, and then he'll just go start some company. And while he's starting that company, he'll probably go start another company. I mean, what does he care? David will never stop moving, perpetual motion. He might leave a job, but retiring, yeah, that's hard to believe.
Sure, but I think he's talking about when's he going to retire as the play-by-play guy.
Yeah, that's probably true. When will he step aside from that gig? Jace wants to know where Locke and Boone went golfing. I guess they were talking about that during the broadcast. Yeah, Ron probably won't give that up. Ron loves to golf. He golfs a lot. Ron, you golfing today? No, I'm taking the day off. Hey, Ron, what are your favorite courses? I'm not answering that question. Why not? I get too much free golf. I might irritate somebody. I'm not answering that question.
I've golfed with Ron Boone.
I bet you have, yeah. Ron's advice. Ron, you got any advice on golf? Stay away from those double bogeys, man. Stay away from those double bogeys.
Yeah, for sure.
Bruce gets to the issue. Are they really done tanking? Sure was nice to watch Steph Curry and his team pull out the win over the Clippers. I forgot what it was like to see high-level competitive basketball. Yes, I believe they are done tanking. I guess the only way – I guess the way I'm most likely to be wrong when I say that is the fact that if they open this lottery up to 18 teams or whatever – I do think there could be some team riding the line, wherever they put the line, however they do this, I don't know. I don't think they know for sure yet. But I could see some team that's fifth in a playoff race going, you know what, if we go to 6, we get a lottery pick, and we probably match up with 3 better than 4 anyway. Sit some guys. But even that would probably only be a couple nights, not what we've seen here where it's months of the stuff. I think we're just done with months of the stuff.
I don't see that at all. I think that sends a horrible message. I think the last thing everybody – including himself, wants to see next season is Larry Markkinen over there smiling and joking in street clothes. We have an image of that with his hair all curled up and looking great. We've seen that too much from this man, and I believe he would tell you. I think he wants to play in highly competitive games, and so just the image of that is etched in my mind, and I've dealt with it for 4 years because I understood the bigger picture. And I think when I say I could very well say we, speaking for literally tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of Jazz fans. And so I think that with us in the media, and along with them, most importantly them rather than us, signaling that the tanking is over, and Austin Ainge made that bold statement, okay, it was a year premature, but the statement that he made was still that it's going to end here soon. And so he was off by a year, whoop-de-doo. And so now it applies to the 26-27 season. And it's so important for this franchise to strive to win. Will Hardy, another year, even if it's for 5-10 games, you guys are going to go nuts. I didn't want to do that. And so at that point, quit worrying about some stupid luck that you may or may not get in a lottery weeks down the line and then months down the line. And then you draft another rookie, and you got Locke telling us, look, rookies playing them could help you lose games rather than win games. They'll have a bunch of guys under 25. Do they really need another one, whether it's the 12th pick or the 15th pick? If they desire someone so bad enough that they have to have them, then just give away some of your assets to go get that player in the first place, and then you don't have to worry about it. So you can accomplish both goals. So I don't even conceive them doing that, nor do I accept them doing that, because I know they're not going to accept them doing that. If there's some guy out there that you want that bad, go get him. And so with that in mind, I expect them to try to compete as much and as well and as best as they can all 82 games, and then at the end of 82 see where it stacks up and what do you have as far as playing an 83rd game and where you play it, when you play it, who you play it, all that stuff. Hopefully that's the case, but I think absolutely 100% without exception that is the ambition and the goal for this next season.
When I saw that question posted, the question came to my mind. It's, what's the number one thing I want to know? What do I really – and I think my opening question to David Locke is going to be, now that it's all said and done, who does the coaching staff and the executives, who do they really trust among these young guys they've drafted? Who do they trust the most to play at least 20, maybe 25 minutes and contribute to a 50-win team night after night after night? And how many guys – are in that group? There might be one they trust the most, but they might really have, 2 or 3 guys in that group. The answer might not be just one. I do want to know who they trust the most next year. I mean, if you go long-term potential and then ceiling and all, everybody would say Ace Bailey. I think that would be a really common answer. But that might not be the guy they trust the most next year. Maybe they think Ace is still really a year away. What do they think? And so I think that's where I'm gonna jump in with him, because I think there is. I think there's obviously quite a bit of trust in Keontae. I'd be really surprised if he didn't have that kind of role. There could be trust in Ace. I don't think there is in Bryce Sensabaugh. I think there's enough trust to put him on the team and that he will play some, but I don't think at the end of the year, barring injuries, I would be surprised if he played 70 games and averaged 25 minutes. That I don't think he's going to have that big a role next year. Maybe I'm wrong. And honestly, maybe even Locke would be wrong, and maybe the coaches would be wrong too. There's still 6 months for guys to improve. Where do each of these young guys slot in? How much real trust do they have? Because Locke's, he said this multiple times. He's 100% serious about it. And you and I both know when he says stuff like this, he's talked to other people in basketball, inside and outside the organization, and he's heard it. It's going to be different. There's going to be pressure. The top 10 teams in the league are going to prepare differently. They're going to run out different lineups. It's going to be harder. And for the young guys, it could be kind of a moment. Whoa, I got to adjust. The bar's higher. I got to clear this thing now. And so how much trust do they have for these guys in those moments? That'll be intriguing. See what he says.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that the trust factor, it goes into, it's a wonderful backcourt. It'll be George Bailey. It'll be Kante George and Ace Bailey. And even though Ace Bailey isn't necessarily ready for that particular moment, they trust that he will be, and they know he has to go through this experience. So they may not have the ultimate trust in him to succeed in game 56 in this next season, but I believe they trust that it will get there. And so let him go through some growing pains. That's no problem there. And it's not like they've got a bunch of other guys that they could turn to anyway. So I think we'll see that. And Ace Bailey will take another step. And then probably in the 27-28 season, he'll take another step. Get this, when he actually turns 20 or 21, he's still a baby. And so he'll have that. And then the future is extremely bright, and the arrow is just skyrocketing high. He's not there yet, but that's the direction it's pointing. Clearly, you don't have that type of athletic ability at all. And they'll get a better read as they watch him work out. I mean, they literally can watch him from the upstairs and open up the curtains and look across the practice field in the summer to see what he's doing. And he'll be involved in summer league to an extent, and locally and in Vegas and all that. And they'll be able to see the stuff, and they'll work with him and tell him what he needs to work on. So they'll be able to judge his work ethic up front. To me, the number one question is what they do with Kessler, because Kessler, he has a level of importance to the team in a different manner, in the way that when they acquired Hornacek, that was such a vital acquisition, obviously. Completely, totally different reasons, but you get the point. The piece to the puzzle that Jeff was able to add clearly made a significant difference. And Kessler, maybe on his own, may not be a first team All NBA and all that stuff. But when you look at the skill set that he has in this piece of puzzle that is the Jazz roster and the Jazz playing rotation, he becomes vitally important. So I'm interested to know what David's feelings are and thoughts are as far as the future for Kessler with the Jazz.
I wonder where Isaiah Collier fits in all this. He's a guy that played 25, almost 26 minutes a game this year, and he played 59 games, started 19 of them. And obviously they were sitting him at the end, and he had a hamstring, but the way they were sitting everybody at the end, I think, they were going to sit him one way or another. And I wonder how they see his role next year. Do they see him as a third guard in a rotation, as a fourth guard, as a fifth guard? What level did he impress them to? That's real cool. I don't have a good feel for what they think of him when, next year when push comes to shove and they really got to get results. So we can talk with David about all of that coming up.
I think that when you have a player like he's a backup point guard, he has a specialty, right? He's not a well-rounded, can do everything type of player, but his ability to explode, to get to the rim, to get into the paint, combined with his size and strength, that is a skill. So I think we'll see that in this next season. To what degree? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? And let's not put a ceiling on Isaiah Collier and say, okay, he's played 2 years in the NBA. This is who he's going to be for the next 10 years. He also has an opportunity to develop his game, because he came out. The way of the world is everybody's coming out as a freshman, right? So everybody is not in the same starting point. Some clearly, you look at some of these guys like Cooper Flagg comes out. He actually came out as a high school senior when you think about it, because he reclassified. Now, obviously, him playing this season with Duke expedited his progress, but he's at an entirely different level. We understand that. Even a kid like who was sort of lost in the shuffle a little bit in terms of rookie talk because of Flagg and Knipple over there in Charlotte, but a kid like Edgecombe for the Sixers, I watched the box scores because we saw him play for Baylor. So, and, I have an interest in the Northeast from my roots. So I'm watching as much as I can. And that kid looks like he has a promising future, right? So he may not be at the same level of development as maybe Knipple and Flagg were. But, man, if you had an opportunity to get him on your team, you would jump for joy because it looks like he has a little bit of a arc that is along the Ace Bailey pattern, right? That's a player. So everyone's different. So I want to see what Collier can do now. He got a much more of a taste individually. Maybe not, I guess, the team won 5 more games this past season, but that doesn't really matter. It's the individual success that should buoy and strengthen his confidence based on what he did this season. I feel like that is something that's going to be evident. So he should approach summer workouts like, man, I'm an NBA player. Now I got to really make my mark in the NBA. I'm in the league. I'm going to stay in the league. I'm going to have a 3rd season in the NBA, but I want to make my mark. And I want to show that some of the stuff that I did in the 25-26 season wasn't just a fluke and it was on a lousy team, so I had opportunities. No, I want to be a player. That's the way I would think his mindset would be. And let's see what he can do when there is that consequence that Locke said, rightly so, was not really there this season. Well, surely will be there next season.
All right, David Locke is coming up. We will take a break. Pablo Mastroeni is here at 9 o'clock, and we're going to Vegas for a scouting report on the Golden Knights Utah Mammoth playoff series at 9:30. Stick around. That's all on the way. David Locke next, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Christian's never seen Almost Famous because you and I are both ancient. One of the best movies ever. And Earl is the lead singer. Jason Lee.
Jason Lee. Who started his career as a professional skateboarder. Did you know that? He's like one of the greatest skateboarders of all time. And was like, I'm going to shift into being a big-time actor.
Scientologist.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
What do you mean? Isn't it a well-known fact that Jason Lee is a Scientologist?
I just thought it was a little irrelevant to the story, but...
Well known to 1 out of the 3 of us.
I don't know. I was thinking of all the things that I know about Jason Lee. Ben dropped this skateboarder thing in there, which seemed fairly fascinating. I just happen to know the guy's a Scientologist. That's all.
What are you implying? About Jason Lee today.
What are you saying? I wasn't saying anything negative about him. I just pointed it out. Scientologist.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Your Utah Jazz, 82 games down, on to the offseason. You were just talking, we had Mike Weir on earlier this week. Get that wherever you get your podcast. Great conversation with Mike Weir about golf, where he stands in his career, how long he plans on playing, what he thought of Rory winning. And then the best part is just the whole thing about the Champions Dinner and just being out on the balcony. And you're talking about how you'd like to be a fly on the wall, PK. That's a great summertime topic. Where in the sports world would you like to be a fly on the wall? One place, Masters Champion Dinner. Absolutely. That would be awesome. Let's just go over and listen to Jack Nicklaus and Mike Weir talk, and that'd be spectacular. Another place, this summer I think a lot of Jazz fans would be like to be sitting in an office with Austin Ainge and Danny Ainge and Jay-Z and Ryan Smith would probably pop in. The coaches, I wonder how many coaches. I mean, obviously Will could be there, but maybe some of the assistant coaches would be there too. Obviously there'd be some scouts and that in there. And to sit in those rooms, whether it's 3 people or whether it's 30, and just like listen to them talk and weigh the positives and the negatives, you know. We're old enough. We've seen different generations. Obviously, Joe Ingles came on this show and turned himself into one of our favorites pretty quickly. He was the 5th forward. They had to sit in a room and think, okay, who can play these forward spots? And he's probably the 5th guy as kind of a wing guy. And a lot of nights he'll sit, and some nights he'll come in, and if somebody's out, he becomes the 4th guy, and maybe he plays 10 to 12 minutes. And plus he's Australian, and Dante Exum, this high pick, that could help. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then pretty soon Exum's hurt, but Joe's. It's like I remember you saying on the air one day at a Curdy, he goes, you know what I noticed with Joe? When they're throwing him the ball, it's not quite to him yet, and it's obvious he already knows where he's going to throw it next. And he just throws these touch passes. Just catch it, boom, and the ball moves and somebody gets an open shot. And pretty soon he's the 4th guy. Pretty soon he's the third guy. And pretty soon he's a runner-up in the Sixth Man of the Year voting to Jordan Clarkson. So where are they going to slot these guys? You know, it would be awesome to hear them talk about how much money they can afford to give Kessler because of how much money they think they're going to have to give George because of how much money they think they still need to put together the rest of the team. I mean, and to listen to them knock that back and forth. Well, if we do this, we can do that. But if we do that, then we'll have to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And let's run all that by David Locke right now. The radio voice of the Utah Jazz joins us. David, good morning.
A Friday morning. David and Patrick. I mean, there are guarantees in life. Death,
here we go.
Taxes, and DJ and PK on a Friday morning. And you know what? You're both delightful human beings. And I've changed something in my life. I've stopped with the innocuous, feckless, vapid, hi, how are you? And instead, I ask people when I see them, I stop and I say, what's the most exciting thing in your life? So David James, what is the most exciting thing in your life?
My wife is getting better after surgery. She's not
That's
good.
Awesome.
But she's better. So
that's awesome. That's great. Patrick
that's
Kinahan, what is the most exciting thing in your life?
I go to the basics to be able to walk. So many people can't walk. And if you can't walk, that just destroys your ability to enjoy it at a level that I do. So I never take for granted the simple ability to be able to walk, to exercise, to play golf, to stand and do the things that a lot of folks can't do. And so I take it down at the bottom level. And if I got that, then I can build upon that and enjoy some other stuff that may come. But the essence, the day-to-day stuff, if I'm cool day-to-day, well, then obviously I'm going to be great when I'm going on an around-the-world vacation, which I'll never take. But you get the point I'm trying to make.
Yep. I love it. I ask this all the time now, and I think it's really interesting. I love it because it's actually super selfish. I'm an extrovert, so I get somebody else telling me what makes them happy, which gives me energy, so it's actually super selfish. But somebody the other day answered that their ability to think ahead and their ability to improve. And I was like, oh, that's an awesome answer. So, yeah, I love it. Thank you, both of you, for sharing. I greatly appreciate it.
David, let's start with a question I think that everyone's trying to assess. The Jazz young guys, especially the ones they've drafted and the ones they've been developing, do you have a really good feel for who the Jazz coaches and executives really trust to play at least 20 or 25 minutes a game next year on a 50-win team, if that's the goal, whether they get there or not? But they feel comfortable plugging them into how many of the guys are they sure of? How many guys are they questioning? How many guys are they ruling out? After 82 games of investing, a lot of losing and checking these guys out, what do you think they think about how to plug these guys into next year's roster?
So I don't want to make this – I'm a little nervous to answer this question because the way things go viral with my friend Angie Mentic living it right now. So you had an interesting word in there, which was questioning, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't you say the word questioning? I think they question whether any of them can play 25 minutes on a 50-win team, including Keontae. Like, I'm not trying to be negative, but one, the first premise is trying to win. What we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's led to great development, and that's why you do it, is really easy. Have you seen these games these last few days?
Yeah,
unfortunately. Like, we've never done that. Denver, San Antonio regular season, our guys have never done that. None of our guys have. Jaren's won one playoff series. It's the only guy in the whole roster who's won a playoff series that's going to be on the roster next year in all likelihood. I mean, or core guys, right? So, I mean, I think we should be legitimately questioning whether any of them can. Like, I don't know if it's a really good metric or not, but for 2 years in a row, on Taylor Snar's dunks and threes, Keontae George is the worst defensive player in the NBA. So I don't know if that's fair. Last year he played without a center, and it wasn't a team constructed to play good defensively. But if you're using the phrase questioning, I'm certain that there's a lot of questioning of whether Keontae George is capable defensively to play for a 50-win team. Because if he's actually the worst defensive player in the NBA for a third year in a row, we're not winning 50 games. I can promise you that. So I'm not trying to be like dramatic or talk shock jockey. That's an old phrase no one uses anymore. But I think there's a serious question on every single one of them of whether they can play. And I don't think that Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski, Cody Williams, and maybe even Bryce Sensabaugh can play 25 minutes on a 50-win team yet. But I'd also ask you this. Of the 50-win teams in the NBA, how many players are playing on those rosters that are third and fourth year guys, second, third year guys, and then also low draft picks? I don't think there's that many, right? San Antonio being the exception, but they also have Victor. But Denver has 0, unless maybe they have somebody. Peyton's in his fourth year now. But I think Denver basically has 0. Oklahoma City at this point might have 0 other than A.J. Mitchell. So that's a second-year player. And that's a pretty easy ecosystem to step into. That's the other thing, right? You go add 2 or 3 good players, and now what you're asking Bryce Sensabaugh and Kyle Filipowski and Isaiah Collier to do is so much more narrow-focused. Maybe they can do it way better than what we're asking them to do right now.
Yeah. Understood on that. I get that point. That's a well-deserved and respected point that you make. You've spoken when we get to this point in the calendar that there has been for you individually an emotional letdown and sort of an emotional hangover with the end because there's this buzz and there's this adrenaline and all that stuff. And then it just comes to a screeching halt and you've had a few days that you need to adjust. I'm wondering, and not just you specifically, but as far as the team, the guys that you're around, is it a little bit different this year, knowing that there's optimism for next year that we haven't seen in a number of years?
I don't think I'll ever forget the day in Atlanta. Like the singular mood change. I can't remember where we were when the trade happened. You could look at the calendar and I probably will remember, but we flew to Atlanta after the trade. And the next day we practiced at Georgia Tech. Pretty long walk back. And I'll never forget that practice. Like Keontae just wanted to talk and Lowry just wanted to talk. Like I talked to both them longer that day than any day all year and probably more that day than all days combined for the rest of the year. They just, what do you think? And what are your takes? And they just want everyone's thoughts on it. They couldn't get enough from it. And then I happened to walk back that day with the coaching staff and they were just bubbling. And I'll never forget the mood change that happened in Atlanta. We were in Indiana the day before. I know because I know where Austin Ainge and Will Hardy went to dinner to discuss the trade the night before. So we were in Indiana and then headed to Atlanta. And I'll never forget the energy change. And that carried through for the rest of the year. I mean, there was some ridiculousness that took place this year, right? And it got kind of comical at times, but that energy and that trade made everything okay. I can't imagine what it would have been like to go through the last 2.5 months of the season with no light at the end of the tunnel. Like just begging for Cooper Flagg again, right? Like last year, I do remember going through it and like, okay, well, yeah, 20%, 18% chance to get Cooper Flagg. Like we're doing an awful lot for 18% chance. And it turned out that actually we really want to get into it. Last year's losing might turn out to be some of the most important because the difference between Ace Bailey and the 6th, 7th, and 8th pick may turn out to be really dramatic. And so the fact that we had the worst record in the NBA and could the worst case scenario slide to 5 and walk out with Ace Bailey may turn out to be an incredibly important franchise moment. So as was probably getting to 4 or 5 this year. So all of that stuff was worth it and necessary, but to have done it without a light at the end of the tunnel would have been really hard. The mood change in Atlanta that day was just incredible.
You have any insight into Walker Kessler, into what lengths they will go to sign him, or does everyone just have to sit around on pins and needles and wait? Because in a weird way, that trade you talk about with Jaren Jackson Jr., in my mind, makes it all the more imperative to bring Walker back. So you could have 3 7-footers. You could go from the bottom of the league, they're either 30 or 29 defensively every year, just year after year after year. All of a sudden, they could be elite. They would have the size and the length. My gosh, they'd be a nightmare to deal with.
I'm going to back up 2 things I've heard you say already today, so I'm just kind of agreeing with you. So one is Detroit this year had the largest advantage of any team in the history of the league in the restricted area. And I think it's a signal of a shift in the game right now. So we went through an era of basketball where shooting threes and being able to shoot the long ball was really what kind of separated teams. And Quinn Snyder's teams with a shot distribution of 40, 40, 20, 40% of your shots at the rim, 40% of your shots at 3 and 20 was gaining themselves a 2 or 3 point advantage every night in the regular season and winning games because their shot distribution was better than everybody else. I think the new age, we hear about the possession thing all the time right now from the coaches. I actually think everyone's onto that. There are 3 things that I think are the new age of the league. One is this idea of winning an area of the floor dramatically. I don't know if you can do the 3-point line anymore. So Detroit winning the restricted area. 2, the 5 best rim defenses in the NBA. So 5 best teams defending shots at the rim are Detroit 1 seed, Oklahoma City 1 seed, Boston 2 seed, San Antonio 2 seed, and Minnesota back-to-back Western Conference Finals. Those are the 5 best teams in the NBA defending the rim. The third one is the best offensive teams are all offensive rebounding teams, which is the possession battle. Those are all 3 areas are areas where we could be elite if we have Walker, Kessler, Jaren Jackson. Now, what's interesting about that is neither of them are elite rebounders. Walker's above average, Jaren's below average, and Lowry's well below average. And Ace is not a great rebounder. So it is interesting. We just decided that size is going to rebound. There is going to have to be a little bit of a commitment from the players because they've actually never been very good at that. Walker's okay. I think he's above average, but not statistically. All right. So that's first thing. So I'm backing you up. Second thing, Walker. I do think getting Walker back is vital because you got to see if this is going to work. And Jaren Jackson's a power forward, not a center. Jaren can play some center, and will probably play Jaren as a 5-out center, which gets into a very interesting question of what we do about backup center and how we allocate those minutes, depending on what we think we're doing with Jaren. And that probably will be dictated a little bit by the draft. But I do think Walker's vital to bring back, and I think Walker's really good. But we are in an era, as you said earlier, and this was where you were really astute, you cannot just – it used to be like they want 30, you're going to give them 20. We'll just decide at 27.5 and just throw the extra $3 million around like it doesn't matter. Can't do that anymore. That will prevent you from having another rotation player, and that'll prevent you from winning a playoff series because money is so tight on the aprons now. And so these negotiations are going to get much more difficult today than they've ever been because the compromise of just, oh, well, we'll figure it. And the other one is we'll pay him now and figure it out later was the other approach that used to really work. It didn't work so well on Derek Favors for the Jazz, but it generally worked pretty well. And that is a lot more difficult to do now because if you go over the aprons, you're so restricted in your player movement that it's very difficult for you to be able to move that player. And then you get really caught in a bind. So this is a much more complicated negotiation than it's ever been before.
Last time the Jazz as a franchise.
And let me flip it. That was from the Jazz perspective. From Walker's perspective, it's a little iffy too. And that is, when was the last time you can think of a restricted free agent moving teams?
Guys,
I got to go find it. It's got to be 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So the idea that someone's going to give Walker a 4-year, $120 million offer as a restricted free agent, like, I just think it's unlikely. I mean, I think the 3 teams are like Brooklyn might do it. Atlanta will have some cap room, and some people think Chicago. Like, yeah, I don't really see like Brooklyn deciding to eat up their cap space on Walker and pivoting off Nick Claxton. Atlanta seems to have something right now with a Kongu. I don't know why they would do Walker at that number. And I just don't see Chicago. So then suddenly Walker doesn't have any market, and the Jazz are holding firm to their number and the Jazz are offering, let's say the Jazz are offering 4 years, 100. Like, are you really walking from $100 million over principal? Really?
PK's shaking his head because his mother would come back from the grave and just bash him upside the skull.
I mean,
where do I sign?
It's a really tricky negotiation because it's somewhat built to make both sides unhappy.
And maybe there's some satisfaction. That's what gets it across the line. Everybody looks at it. Yeah, half a loaf. Let's do it.
Right. So let's hope. I mean, there's been some murmur that like the league kind of thinks there's some people in the league who think it's done, but I don't believe that.
What's done?
That the Jazz and Walker kind of understand where each other are and they're going to get it done. But I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
Well, it'd be intriguing. I mean, there was that whole rumor about the Pacers offering up a couple of picks, trying to make it happen, and that didn't go anywhere. And the fact it didn't go anywhere might suggest, well, maybe there's been some talk, and they realize they're in the same arena, and there's going to be a meeting of the minds.
So I don't know how that works. So there's no question. Let's just be totally clear on this. If the Pacers traded for Zubac, they asked about Walker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no that would be negligent not to, right?
Right.
So okay, so the rumor is clearly true. The thing that I think is interesting here is I don't know if you can pull this up really quickly at Sport Tracker where you look at this, but I think Zubac makes 17 or 18. So I don't know this, but I'm just going to guess that there's back channels. Like, no one's doing stuff without – this is just logic. I'm certain that if Indiana was interested in Walker, Indiana also had a reason to call Walker's agent on 3 other topics and go, oh, by the way, what do you expect Walker to get in the offseason? Right? Right? Like, you would have to do that. If you're in their position, you'd have to do that. That just is logical. Well, I'm guessing that their number was way higher than 17, and Indiana said no thank you, because I'd rather have Walker than Zubac.
Zubac this year made almost 18.9. Next year it goes to 20.3, and then it goes to 21.8. And so he's got 2 years left at just over $20 million.
Right, and Walker comes back and says, I want 25 or 30. Indiana's like, yeah, we'll trade for Zubac.
Right.
The problem for Walker is that just took one of the teams off the market.
Yeah. David, we got to go.
I don't know that. This is just, like, I do enough business, like with Lockdown, I do enough business deals that this is kind of how you just do deals, right? Like,
right.
You're calling both parties. You're asking where everybody is. You're figuring out what's going on. You're taking your best options. Mm-hmm. There's zero chance that people in $1 billion industry of the NBA are doing this blind.
David, you didn't wait to do this when you were starting Locked On. You were doing this sitting at bagel shops and doing radio in the previous century. I know this firsthand.
Yeah, when I screwed you on your first deal, sure. Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
Right. And when I told Gordon Monson that, like, come on, I'm going to make you the most powerful person in town. You don't need money. You just need power.
And it worked in both cases.
I never trusted him.
We got the money later. We'll wait for Locke to leave.
It worked out for you guys.
It did.
My dad gave me a great piece of advice in life, by the way, on money, for anyone who's listening. My dad told me, like, there'll be twice in your life, 2 or 3 times in your life where money will actually matter. The rest of the time, you're just nickel and diming. So make sure you make the right decisions on those 2 or 3, and don't worry about it the other times.
There you go.
You didn't. You got nickeled and dimed by me, and then you did just fine, DJ.
Yep, that's a true story.
And PK, I was ignorant to brilliance. I've openly admitted it. I was ignorant to brilliance.
Well, it worked out too.
It all worked out. Yeah. All right, Dave, we got to run. Hey, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
You guys are really exceptionally good at what you do. And it's honestly, I make it a little bit of a joke every day when I start off, but I really do enjoy chatting with you guys. You guys are great.
Well, we love having you on. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right, there's David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, coming up at 9 o'clock. Then a scouting report on the Vegas Knights. Playoff series for the Mammoth gets underway Sunday night at 8 o'clock in Las Vegas. That's coming up at 9:30. Stay with us.
Just a bunch of guys sitting around and talking sports. This is Scotty G and Friends.
Bill Armstrong, general manager of the Utah Mammoth. I'm sure you've got a lot of veterans saying, okay, this is what you're going to expect in the playoffs. This is how the style is going to be. This is the physicality. But is it something that you don't really know until you experience it?
I think so. It's a great thing. You know, you get to play and test your team against 15 other best teams in the National Hockey League. And there's something about the energy that now enters your building that we're looking for. The physicality, it's a new game. It's so exciting for our players. I've always said when you can feel that pressure, you know you're in the right spot. And this is the new challenge for us. You know, we have that goal to win that first round in the playoffs. And, you know, I think our fans are super proud of what we've done, but there's more to accomplish.
Catch Scotty G and friends weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, joins us next. We just had on David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. PK, we wanted to know about young guys, and he went through them. Well, what'd you think? Any takeaways? Anything really hit you?
Well, none of these young guys has arrived, so you can't look at them and say, all right, this guy, we can count on him for sure. He's 25, he's 30 minutes a game. But I think that there's opportunities for guys to seize those roles, and that's obviously leading the pack is the backcourt that we've had fun with It's a Wonderful Life with George and Bailey, and those are the two guys. The opportunity is going to be there, and I get his point that they haven't been in these types of games, and everybody points to what is recognized as the best game of the regular season, and as a couple of weeks ago was San Antonio, Denver, and you got two big studs in the middle and all that stuff, and so they haven't played to that level, but in their minds they've been playing at a high level, even though the ramifications weren't there and the intensity of everyone wasn't there, and the playoff-like atmosphere that you talk about in a regular season game, which is rarely there. And we'll see that with the Mammoths starting Sunday night in Vegas. The intensity will increase and what they've been doing. And this is a team that has been playing in high-level games now for 2 years as they tried to get to the playoffs last year. And this year they have achieved that goal, but then it steps up another level, and many of them haven't been involved in that. So I think they'll have an opportunity to grow into those roles. And I think, we have this level of optimism and expectation, and we want the Jazz, all right, now they're going to win. Well, what does that mean? Yeah, they're going to win, but they're going to win at a 50-game level. They're going to win at a 45-game level. Where are they going to fit in the Western Conference? And we're excited, but maybe we need to temper it because these younger guys do have to go through these experiences. But I think what he said to me is what I was making, or not to me, but what he said to everybody was the point that I was making with Collier. He's got this specialty, right? He can do things. He's not overall a phenomenal player, but he's got a specialty. Well, I think you can see that with Sensabaugh too. He's got a specialty that could be utilized, and that's where the coaches come in and say, all right, he can't do this and this, but he can do this really well, so let's put him in that position to do whatever this is. And with him, it's obviously three-point shooting and scoring the basketball. And now with Cody Williams, he's long. He's got a lot of deflections, those types of things. He's not a well-rounded player just yet, but how do I, speaking from the Will Hardy perspective, utilize him in a defensive rotation? And maybe he hasn't been playing, but it's right down in the end, and there's somebody that I believe he can guard. So you isolate those guys, put them in particular situations where their skill set can flourish, and go from there as they bide their time waiting for these guys to get more comprehensive games.
Be interesting to see how much these guys improve this summer, right? Keontae obviously made a big step. He needs to make another one, and obviously he could do it at the defensive end of the floor. Plus, if he has Kessler behind him, and Jaren Jackson Jr., that would be a different deal, and that would help him out as well. All right, we'll have more on that going forward, but right now we got to take a break. When we return, Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, joins us next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Question of the day is up on Facebook, DJ and PK. It's up on Twitter, David DJ James. Brian Santiago says BYU will never have a private equity firm be part of its sports programs. Why so adamant? PK, it will shock you to learn this is getting a lot of reaction this morning.
2 words, BYU.
Yes, I suppose it will not shock you to learn that it is getting a lot of reaction. So we've got a segment here on RSL with Pablo coming up here. He'll join us momentarily. And we got the Mammoth scouting report at 9:30, but we will get to this in our final segment, so stay tuned for that. DJ and PK, we're joined right now by RSL head coach Pablo Mastroeni. Pablo, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Pablo.
There we go. I got him.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Good to hear you.
Absolutely.
Pablo, sometimes when you tell me something 20 or 30 times, I eventually begin to believe you and hear you. And you have told me many times, more about the process, less about the results. The only way to get the results you want is to have the process that you need.
Right.
You're 6 games in. The results have been really good, but the process is weird. You've only played 1 time in the last 3 weeks. Now you got to play 3 times in 8 days. San Diego Saturday, Messi will be here Wednesday. Then you go to L.A. the next weekend to play the Galaxy. This process isn't normal. How do you feel like the team's handling it? Are you ready to play your best in a pretty intense stretch here that will trump anything that's come before it?
Yeah, no, I think, again, when we speak about process, it's really about how we approach the day-to-day, right? And I think this has obviously been a unique time with the two bye weeks so early in the season. But if you go back to the beginning of the season and you realize that we lost 4 guys about 2 days before our first game, and the guys just carried on. There wasn't a change in behavior. It was really about sticking to what we had to do, what the objective was, and the guys have been great. So again, I think this is another challenge for us. A 3-game week off the heels of not playing in 2 weeks, and then we'll just see where we're at. But the preparation this week has been great. I think. Just talking to the guys, it's really interesting because they said it's really strange because, with the results that we've gotten in the first 6 games, there's still a little bit of tension in the locker room. And I said, well, are you saying that's a bad thing? And they say, well, man, I don't feel like there should be any tension in the locker room. And I said, no, tension's great because tension means that we're doing well, but let's be great. Let's do better. And if you don't have that tension, even when things are going well, then I don't feel like you're a team that's striving to be the best they can be. So it's been really interesting. The training sessions have been great. The attitude's been great. And the fact that there's a little tension in the locker room on the heels of this 3-game week means that they're ready to rock.
Sweet, man. I'm going to have to speak to my wife next time we golf because I love tension and she hates it.
Now, golf, it might be a little bit different, PK. I don't know. I'm not good enough to say one way or the other.
That's the essence of that relationship, by the way. Just in case you're wondering, PK plays radio sometime. He was giving you 100% truth right there.
I thrive on tension.
Jersey. Somebody's from Jersey and somebody's not from Jersey. That's all you need to know.
That's right.
You talk about that tension in the locker room, and we often hear, you have to have some player-led leadership in addition to the management. And we hear, get the savvy veterans. I'm wondering, in your situation, savvy veterans are nice and all that, and they can provide the leadership. But because of the nature of your team where you got so many young guys, I mean, literally boys practically, if a kid like Luna, who is not that old himself, but compared to a teenager he's been around, if that helps get better leadership, almost like a peer rather than somebody who might be in their 30s.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think Luna's been added to the leadership group this year. Obviously, he's been playing great, and this is obviously a big year for him. And in particular, this week, there's been a change in Luna and the way he's approached really, the start of the training, the whole training, and how he's leading in a different way. And I think it's a great thing to see on the cusp of the national team being named. But he's really picked it up a lot, and it's been really interesting because there's a case where we're in training and Luna said, I said, Luna, why don't you go to the left side? And he said, well, is Gozo going to the left side? And I said, no, Gozo's staying on the right. He goes, well, I can stay on the right. I like playing with Gozo. So and now Gozo hears that, and Gozo gets a lift. So leadership is also, I think, understanding that that everyone's flowing. Everyone wants to play with each other, whether you're an old player or, like in Gozo's case, a younger player who's doing extremely well. And so when you have Luna saying that I want to play with Gozo, and Gozo hears that. I mean, that's a pretty powerful leadership moment that kind of brings everyone together.
And you mentioned the World Cup team getting picked, and obviously all eyes, for RSL fans are on Luna. And I was surprised to hear recently it'll be interesting to see if Gozo gets chosen. I was like, if Gozo gets chosen, he hasn't been in with the national team right before the World Cup. They would just, he's playing well, he's talented, he's fast, he's, just scored a heck of a goal, even if it was an unexpected first touch and he didn't plan to do it. He did it. Even if he didn't plan to do it, he did it.
Right.
And I thought, wow, really? And they said, well, it is 26 players, not 23. And, the current coach, some coaches value all this continuity and some coaches really value recent form. I'm like, well, that would play in his favor. Do you get calls on this kind of stuff? Do you just, hear rumors? Does national team coaches reach out very often? How does that whole thing work?
Yeah, I think it's different from national team coach to national team coach, because when Greg Berhalter was in charge, we talked quite a bit. Even with the U20s, when Mikey Veras was there, we talked quite a bit. I think it's just the coach's style, really. And I think in this case, I haven't spoken to Mauricio or anyone from the camp since the last time they were in town observing Luna. So I think in this case, it's more, just keep your cards close to your vest, because I think, if they're trying to be as fair and objective with everything. And, if they talk to one player, these players all talk, right? So although they play on different teams, they all communicate. And so if one person goes, hey, I just heard from Mauricio, and they're like, well, I haven't heard from it. And all of a sudden it might send a negative message to what's actually going to happen. So, but I haven't heard anything from Mauricio. And to your point about Gozo, there could be a space for him and it'd be a wild card. And the great thing about, Gozo's a wild card is I'm going to tell you, even at that level, if you were to go and play in a game, there would be no thinking as far as I can't mess up. Gozo's going to be Gozo. He's going to shoot from areas where most people won't shoot from. He's going to take people on when it's probably not the best decision and still get away with it. So, youth is beautiful in this, as we're seeing this year.
I know you've had this time off, and it's unusual to have this much time off, and I think you were scheduled to have some type of a scrimmage last week. I'm wondering how you handled conditioning to stay as sharp as you could, collectively speaking, as far as the time off, but then also have the conditioning to be able to play the bunch of games here in a relative short period of time.
Right. No, I think that's a good question. And we have a great performance staff that kind of oversees all that, right? And so we've kind of put all the things in the equation as far as time away and what numbers we want to get to. So we did a 70-minute scrimmage at last Friday, and then gave the guys a couple days off to enjoy the weekend so we can start a normal 5-day lead-in as we typically do when we have home games for the San Diego game. And I think there's always a balance to strike. I think the thing that we look for, PK, is the amount of the meters per minute is something that we look at every day in training. So meters per minute, how many meters are you covering in a minute? And we like to keep it at above 110 to 120, between 110 and 120 during the week. So that means when they're working, they're working extremely hard, and then there's rest periods. And so we at this point of the season, we have a good barometer as to what has been successful for us so far this year, as far as how much to train in that zone. And then our sports performance guys break it down. And then, if one day we go a little extra, we'll take some meterage off the next day. And so this one is a lot of science, where I usually say it's more art than science. This one's a lot of science. And then the art part of it is, at the end of the last game, we cut it like a minute and a half, 2 minutes short, because the guys were dying. They were really going for it, and we didn't want them to overexpose themselves. So then the art part was, let's cut it shorter than the 35-minute halves, we said.
There's an old thing in sports, you can't lose your job because of an injury. And then there's other people who are like, I'm going to play the best guys. I don't care. I thought Victor Olatunji was written in stone. He's one of the guys you talked about who got hurt just days before the season opener, and he could not play for weeks because of his eye. When he came back, you've had him coming off the bench. And you got 3 games in 8 days, so you're going to have to play everybody, and actually at that position you might even have to start multiple people. How do you view his role going forward, given the fact that Serge Salon's in front of him has been playing really well, scoring goals, creating lots of chances, and seems to like to defend, which you obviously prioritize that as well. So how are you deciding how you're going to handle this? You are getting a little bit of a gift with 3 games in 8 days. You can kind of keep everybody happy with some minutes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it, DJ. You know, I think, again, it's the hardest thing for players and even, I guess, fans at times, too, to kind of wrap their arms around is that this is such a long season, you know, and I'm always communicating like, listen, you know, in Serge's case with Victor, is like he's playing really well. He's a young player. We're going to need him in big moments this year. If I take him out now, it's going to be very difficult for him to gain the confidence, and he might be overthinking things. And so he's in a good way. I said, we brought you here, Victor, because we all believe in you. I believe in you. You're a huge asset to this club. However, the situation at the moment, I think, you know, lends itself to giving him a little bit of longer runway. And then when you get your go, there's no doubt you're going to score goals and be a stalwart on this team, you know? So I think in these moments, DJ, I think it's really about communicating and then helping them understand that, one, if we're not going to be a good team, if we're going to be a great team, we're going to need depth, and we're going to need guys that come in and are just as good as the guy that's coming out, like just as good. There's no discrepancy in the two. Like everyone's scoring goals, everyone's assisting goals, everyone's defending great, and so then the other part is the length of the season and how the time will come. And so now we have a 3-game week, and the expectation is that Victor's going to get a go, and he's going to do a fantastic job. And everyone's going to probably say, Pablo, why hadn't you been playing Victor this whole time? And that's how it goes.
That's part of the job.
That's it.
One way or the other, you're going to be second, third, fourth, and fifth guess. That's just the way it is in sports, and probably in life too. I'm wondering if you could go big picture and speak to what Messi means to the league, what he means coming to town, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a different perspective just because, you know, I've been in this space and have had the opportunity to play against him when he was a young kid and then coach against him a couple of years ago. And so, I mean, I think for me, it's you know, he's been in the frame for a lot of years, but I think for a lot of the newer players, guys like Gozo, I'm sure growing up and watching Messi in his heyday and like, you know, and so I think like, you know, it's really rare to play alongside of Michael Jordan, alongside of Wayne Gretzky, you know, it's so rare. And so like, sometimes I think, you know, the impact that Messi has has been incredible to our league. Obviously winning the MLS Cup last year was huge. But everything that comes before, the Ballon d'Or, best player in the world, X amount of times, and now he's 36 years old and still playing well, scoring goals. You know, league MVP 2 years in a row. So, anyways, I think all these accolades, you know, precede him in that he's a living legend that you're on the field with. And so, my fear is always that they're going to spend more time in awe of Messi than actually play against him, especially with a younger group. But I think we learned our lesson last year, or 2 years ago when we played him, that you know, he's human. We want to win this game. At the end of the day, 3 important points for us. So I think it's just a balance. I think for us, it's not over indexing the fact that Messi's on the field. It's more about we all know what he brings. We got to make sure that we have a good setup to be aware of where he's at all times, but really approach the game as a celebration of us being a great team and wanting to be a great team rather than celebrating the best player that's ever played the game.
Miami and Messi are here Wednesday. San Diego is here Saturday night. We're going to give away tickets in a second. I love a good stat. I was stunned by this one, Pablo. I don't know if you know this. Do you know how many red cards San Diego has taken in the last 6 games they've played?
I think, is it 4 or 5?
It's 6.
Wrong, Pablo.
I have never heard of it. It's 4 games in a row. That's why you have the number 4 in your head.
Right,
it's 4 games in a row. You go back 5, they didn't take 1. But if you go back a 6th game, they had 2 in that game. So that's why you had those numbers in your head. And I'm sure somebody told you. 4 games in a row they've taken a red card.
Wow.
But it's 6 in 6 games.
That's incredible.
And one of them was against you in a 2-2 draw down there. That one came late. Some of them come on early. Some of them come late. So I'm going to be looking to see if anybody out there, trying to provoke anybody, any of that little, the little dig, little something, see if you can draw them, bait them into something.
I hope so.
Well, here's the thing with San Diego too is they're very transitional as well. So when they commit a lot of numbers forward in transition and someone steals the ball, now they're exposed defensively, and more times than not, it's going to add to either yellow cards or, in some cases, red cards. So
Reds, yeah.
Yeah. So it should be, regardless, it'll be an exciting game. That game in San Diego was too exciting for my blood, but hey, the fans deserve a show. So hopefully we're on the right side of the result.
All right, thanks, Pablo. We appreciate it as always. Good luck.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, there's Pablo Mastroeni. He always says that after these 2-2, 3-2 games. He's like, yeah, you people probably love that. I hated that. That just killed me.
That's a coach, yeah.
But it's the best because everybody hates it when you're just standing in the middle of the field and the offside trap and people just seem to be kicking the ball around with no real purpose. And the end-to-end is just way more – it's wide open. It's more entertaining. And San Diego and RSL both want to play that way. So usually you'd expect to get that kind of game, and San Diego did. It was 4 goals, and there were probably another 4 or 5 chances split between the two teams. Both teams could have picked up a third or fourth goal, and hitting crossbars, great saves, all kinds of stuff. All right, we got tickets to that. If you want to go to a game, we got tickets to see RSL and San Diego. Tomorrow night, America First Field, 801-575-ZONE. Call right now. Caller 12, 801-575-ZONE, 801-575-9663. A 5-pack of tickets to go see RSL and San Diego. The weather's supposed to be warming up. Good thing they didn't have games Thursday or Friday. That was rough, but we're on the upswing. Blue skies today, and here we go. All right, DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, time to go to Vegas, get a scouting report on the playoff series. It starts Sunday night, the Utah Mammoth, the Vegas Golden Knights. Stay with us. We're going to Vegas next.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
Travis Yost, our guest. He covers the NHL for TSN.
For the Mammoth, I think they're the 4th best team in the West. I think that they would be a likely favorite against Anaheim. They could be or should be a favorite in a series against Vegas. If the Mammoth close the season as we expect, by goal differential, this is the best team that has ever been on the ice for either the Utah or Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes franchise by goal differential this season right here, right now. This team absolutely should not be thinking we made it to the playoffs. What an accomplishment. At this point, considering how good the Mammoth have been, and I mean that, they really should be thinking, how do we go in and win a round in the playoffs? And I think if you've got Anaheim on the ice, even if you're the road team in that series, that's a matchup the Mammoth should want, and it's one they should win.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
DJ and PK brought to you in part by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. DJ and PK, we're joined now by Danny Webster. He covers the Vegas Golden Knights and the NHL for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Danny, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are we doing?
We're doing well. What is the reaction to Vegas drawing Utah in the playoffs?
Overall reaction, I would say a lot of excitement. Obviously, you got 2 of the league's newest teams going at it, and obviously there's been a lot of buzz going on with Utah this year. I thought that they were going to take a leap in year 2 in the Utah market. They absolutely did that, and it should be a fun series. I think everybody's looking forward to it. I think a lot of people also see how tough of a series this is going to be for the Golden Knights, because obviously Utah possesses a lot of speed, a lot of dynamic playmaking. But overall, the reaction here from what I've seen from fans and everything else, we're in for a barn burner here.
There's so much to draw as far as, I wonder if this will happen. I wonder if that will happen. And with the things that are going on with each team, I'll start with Vegas, since that's what our listeners are interested in. They've been following Utah all season. 8 games to go. I think it was 8. They make a coaching change.
Yeah.
And since then, when they make that change, the team has just been incredible. How much do you think that momentum is going to be able to carry over into the postseason?
Yeah, that's the biggest question. Obviously, John Tortorella has brought a kind of a mini culture shift, maybe a big vibe change to this locker room. Like you said, 8 games to go. They made probably what you would call the most shocking coaching change that we've seen in a long time, firing a guy in Bruce Cassidy who just won this team its first Stanley Cup, 3 years ago. So to make that move, to bring in John Tortorella, the overall feeling from the group going in was that the message was getting stale. Just the overall delivery of the message from Bruce Cassidy just wasn't getting there. And they felt like they needed someone to come in and kind of, I guess in a fiery John Tortorella-like way, bring that message across and bring a mindset that this team is a lot better than what they were 74 games into the season. And so far, like you said, 8 games through this coaching change, John Tortorella has instilled a confidence in this group that they can go into the playoffs and be the Stanley Cup contender that they set out to be at the beginning of the year. Now, whether it carries to the playoffs, I mean, that's the biggest question, because you went 7-0-1 to close out the regular season and everything's good and you won the division title again and, the vibes are high, but how does this team respond to adversity once their backs are against the wall? Like, if this is a 2-2 series going back to Vegas for Game 5, which I expect it will be, how do they respond? And obviously this is a group that's won a Stanley Cup. This is a group that has been battle-tested before many, many times. But I'm curious to see how Tortorella impacts this team as far as when their backs are against the wall. How do they handle that? How does he handle that, knowing that he's only been on the job for 3 weeks? So it's going to be very interesting to see as this series progresses and as the playoffs progress, if they get far, how they react to that.
Well, he screams and yells at him, right? Isn't that what he does?
That is what he does. But you know what? So far, like I said, 7-0-1, and even talking to the players in the room, that hasn't really been a thing. Like, he's kind of been in a position, John Tortorella is, where he doesn't have to come in and put his stamp on things. He hasn't had time to change the X's and O's of what they've been doing. He's pretty much just saying, okay, he told me essentially that he's coming in as like a guidance counselor, where he's just coming in, kind of putting his words in the right spot, know when to pick his spots, when to say something, when to not, and let this veteran group that's been there, done that, kind of take the reins and figure it out on their own. And so far, 8 games, and they've gotten points in all 8 of those. So far, that's kind of worked out.
Been there, done that is a great expression for a lot of reasons. It can mean a lot of things, and they have been there and done that as far as hoisting the Stanley Cup, but they've also been there and done that and crashed out in the first round 2 years ago when they were the defending champs. And last year they did win a series before they got knocked out in 5 by the Oilers. I think it was 5 by the Oilers last year, if I remember right. Yeah. So Are they carrying a little piano as far as postseason history? They've been disappointed and all that, or are they still carrying, hey, we're the guys who won the Cup, we can do this again?
No, I think there's definitely that sense of unfinished business. You mentioned the series against Dallas a couple of years ago, coming in as defending champions, where they went the final 2 months without Mark Stone. He comes back in to the lineup. They go up 2-0 in that series. They're trying to integrate 2 new players in Noah Hannafin and Tomas Hertl at the time. And Then they made a goalie change in the middle of the series when it was tied 2-2, and suddenly it's like, okay, well, you're trying to search for answers, but the biggest problem at the end of the day was that they only scored 1 goal in Game 7, and that was the biggest problem for them in that series. And then you look at last year against Edmonton. They fall behind 2-0 in the series. They win that miraculous Game 3 at the buzzer, but then they go Games 4 and 5 without scoring a goal, and their season ends by getting shut out twice in back-to-back games against Stuart Skinner. Now, I know that obviously does not sound good on paper, and it probably never will in the grand scheme of things, but I think ultimately that's one of the reasons why this coaching change needed to happen. And it's not because of Bruce Cassidy's ability to coach. He is definitely going to land a job at some point in the near future. But the way that they were playing and the way that they were trying to attack the net, especially before he got fired, it looked a lot similar to how the playoffs ended the last 2 years. And if you're going into the playoffs again and you're only scoring, 2-3 goals a game with the level of talent on this team, you're not going to get very far. And what you've seen under Tortorella through these 8 games is an attack mindset, a playing north mindset. And that's why they've been able to average about 4.2 goals per game since then. So I think in a sense, this coaching change also heightened this sense of how can we get pucks on net and how can we do it in a way that's going to reflect in the playoffs. And I think you're starting to see over these last 8 games, they're starting to score those playoff type goals that they were not scoring the last 2 years. So that's going to be another interesting thing I'm going to look for as this series goes on is, are they able to score the goals that they could not score last year? And will that be enough to make them go, to help them go on a deep run where they hope to get to the Western Conference Final at least?
I saw your prediction was Vegas in 6. I'm wondering, I'll put a theory by you, see what you think about it as far as that prediction, some of your reasonings, that if you take a look at Utah's best players versus the Knights' best players, that there's far more experience from the best players on the Vegas side versus Utah. And we'll see how Utah develops over the next 2 to 3 years, and maybe it'd be reversed. But as far as right now, the best players advantage seems to be with Vegas. Is that one of the reasons why you're looking at Vegas to advance?
Yeah, I think so. I think ultimately it just comes down to experience. I think, and you can look at really to the Western Conference, even with Edmonton and Anaheim. I think Anaheim especially took a huge leap this year. I don't think anybody expected them to finish third in the Pacific, but even if against a banged up Oilers team, that's still a tough task for a young Anaheim team to come in and face against Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard. Like that's a tall task for them. And I kind of see similar things with Utah. Like I said, before the season, I thought that they were going to take that next step and become a playoff team, and they've done that. I think the way that Dylan Guenther has played this year, the way that Clayton Keller has continued to evolve as one of the best playmakers in the league, has definitely been a great thing for just the overall franchise, not even Utah, even dating back to Arizona. Like the fact that he's continued to become this, stellar playmaker has really heightened just how good this team is. But ultimately, I think what it comes down to is just the experience and knowing that, maybe it's not Utah's time yet. And you know what, if they get past Vegas, I have no doubt that they could probably get to the conference final. But I just think when it comes down to it, I think it's going to be a 2-2 series coming back to Vegas for Game 5. And in those kind of games, you rely on the guys that have been there, done that in big game experience. And right now, I just feel Vegas would be in that position to win that kind of a game, and then going into a Game 6, with a chance to close it out. The guys in that locker room know what it takes to get the job done, even in what I'm expecting to be a great environment at Delta Center. So I think Utah is going to definitely put up a fight. I think it's going to be a very fun series, a lot of back and forth, a lot of open ice. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, I see Vegas just kind of getting that last push over the finish line, and I think they're going to make it they're going to make Karel Vizmelka play out of his mind, I think. And 62, 63 starts this year is no slight on a goaltender, and I do think that will catch up to him going into his first playoff series.
Danny Webster joining us, Vegas Golden Knights and NHL writer for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Do you believe defense wins championships, and do you believe that Colorado, far and away the stingiest team, when it comes to goals allowed, these guys just don't let the puck in the net? 203 goals, 23 better than second-best Dallas. Is everybody in the playoffs just playing until they run into Colorado, or do you think even with their plus 99 goal differential, which is almost double anybody else, that somebody could actually take them down in a 7-game series?
I do think defense ultimately wins championships. I mean, you look at the Golden Knights in 2023, that team was predicated on their 6 defensemen and the way that they were able to, play both ends of the ice, and they were able to keep teams to the outside. That was one of the reasons why they steamrolled their way through Florida in 2023. And even if you look at Florida the last couple of years, they invested in their defense, and they had the skill up front, but they were also able to keep teams to the outside and play to their strengths and use their size as far as, closing off the neutral zone and things like that. As far as Colorado, I definitely see that, this might be the first time in a long time you look at a President's Trophy winner and say, yeah, that they're probably going to be, the toughest out in the entire field. But that's also part of it. I think when you look at the President's Trophy in the past, it hasn't happened since 2013 where a team has won that and the Stanley Cup. And I think ultimately when you look at the Central Division side of things, Dallas and Minnesota are going to beat each other up for a 7-game series, which is going to be awesome. And Colorado, all things considered, should have an easy path to get past LA and meet up with one of those two in the second round. But I think with Dallas or Minnesota, whoever gets past the first round and meets up with Colorado, that's going to be the toughest draw for them. And if it is Dallas, then obviously they're going to be wanting to play for Mikko Rantanen. They're going to want to get revenge again for their star winger. And I feel like if they get healthy at the right time with, Heiskanen and Hintz out for a little bit, Dallas, I think, would give them a run for their money. But again, Colorado's another team that's battle tested. They've won before with the majority of this core, so they know how to get it done there. So it's going to be very interesting to see, but I will never rule out the possibility of a team coming in and upsetting the President's Trophy winners just because it has happened far too often, for the last 13 years.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for coming on and talking a little Stanley Cup playoff hockey with us, because everybody here is ready to get a taste of it, Danny. Thanks for joining us for a few minutes.
Not a problem. Appreciate you guys having me.
Danny Webster, Vegas Golden Knights and NHL writer for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Coming up next, your feedback. A lot of people weighing in on BYU. Athletic Director Brian Santiago saying, not gonna do the private equity thing. Not happening. A lot of reaction to that. We will get to that next. Stay with us. All right, it's time for your feedback here. DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and the question of the morning that's getting a ton of reaction. Brian Santiago says BYU will never have a private equity firm be part of its sports programs. Why so adamant? Eric, why would you not be adamant about that? Have you not seen how private equity has ruined so many things in our lives? LOL.
LOL, laugh out loud.
There is no trust when it comes to private equity.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out for the U of U. I think the Padres are being sold to a private equity firm. I hope that ruins them and that stadium becomes a ghost town and they have guys who throw 71 miles an hour instead of 101 miles an hour.
Had to make it personal, didn't you, PK?
Yes. I won't talk to you for 2 days. It used to be only 1 day, but now it's 2.
Oh, man. Well, pick up the phone in between your, 72 holes of golf, however much you're going to play this weekend. I did think of you watching the end of that game last night because, of course, they went to the bullpen, and then, of course, you got to throw up the graphic, right, for the scoreless streak and all that. And I saw Clay Meredith's name there. I'm like, man, I knew I heard the name, but I could not remember Clay. Now it's because once they put it up there. Well, actually, once you brought it up, I remember. Oh yeah, it was Clay CLA. He doesn't have the Y on it on the end of the name, and
that's dumb.
But he never started a game. That's why you didn't know him. He's not a starter and he's not a closer, but he has the shutout streak record. How weird is that?
It is weird. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So. Didn't matter. They won again last night, and they had another 42,000 that you would like to chase away. Mason Miller struck out this side in the ninth inning, so his scoreless streak, he moved past Randy Jones, and so he'll.
It's like 107 innings of not allowing a hit, and he's got 215 Ks, and he throws 105 miles an hour. Jeez.
He's the last 30 outs he's recorded, he struck out 23 guys.
I know. And then he buckles knees with a curveball because they're sitting on a 102-mile-an-hour fastball, and all they could do, they're reduced to challenging the call, and it's at the heart of the strike zone. They're begging now.
These two teams have been established as permanent rivals, and they now play for the Vetter Cup, named after, it's like a college football kind of thing, after Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder, who's got ties to both cities. So they play for the Vetter Cup. That was the inaugural Vetter Cup, PK. You think that's going to catch on?
It was not the inaugural, just to be clear.
Oh, really?
They had
last year wasn't
last
it? They did do it last year. They did. You're right. That's the second year. Sorry. And Seattle won it last year. That's why I'm ignoring it.
I don't think it'll catch on, but who cares?
There you go.
The people go to the ballpark, they have fun, and your team wins, and you got some guy who chucks the ball harder than anybody you've ever seen, and 42,000 people who came to root for the brown and gold, they go home happy.
Tyler says there's no reason for BYU to go to private equity. Why bring in private capital investors when you can already run your athletics department profitably on your own? There it is. Not doing it, don't need it.
I mean, I'm not advocating it, but you're asking a question, so I'm forced by my DNA to argue for it, even if I don't want to. That sure, they do have a ton of money, but you want to compete with the Texases and the LSUs of the world, at Texas Tech and Texas for that matter, and Texas Tech for first and foremost for the time being because they're in your conference and they've got more money. And I don't know if they have more money. They're willing to put more money into it. Where is Texas Tech going to stop? If you go buy a softball team and the conference puts out its preseason Big 12 and 7 of the 12 members on that team are from Texas Tech and you're like 87-3, well, if you're going to do that for softball, you know what they're going to do for men's basketball and football, right? It only stands to reason. And so can you compete against that? Are you going to be bumping up against Texas? And not just you, but everybody in the conference. Are they all going to be bumping up against Texas Tech every year? And sure, BYU got to the final, but they got annihilated again. And so Texas Tech wasn't ready that first year. So the Devils, maybe they snuck in and took advantage and beat Iowa. But you wonder now, we're going to look back when we get to the turn of the decade, and is it going to be Tech, and more Tech, and Cody Campbell for president of the world instead of the U.S.? That's something to be aware of.
DJ and PK, that's going to do it for us today. Jake and Ben are coming up next. Have a good weekend. We will see you back here Monday morning with Game 1 of the Mammoth-Vegas Knights playoff series in the books. We'll see you then, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Quality proteins aren't just for special occasions. With Omaha Steaks, you get mouth-watering proteins delivered right to your door. Individually packaged and portioned, so a great dinner is just minutes away. From Taco Tuesday to a weekend feast, taste the Omaha Steaks difference. Start getting flavorful proteins delivered today. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code AUDIO at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, code AUDIO. Terms apply. See site for details.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.